of the Schaumburg-Hoffman Estates Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Welcome to our Financial Literacy Seminar. On behalf of our chapter president, Yumna El Saba, we're head over heels excited that you're here with us this morning. Today, we will connect and begin to learn how to build, protect, and preserve your legacy. We will also discuss the nuts and bolts of getting your legal house in order and estate planning for disability and death. But before we get started, let's go over some general housekeeping for segment 1 of 2. Please make sure your microphone is muted until the end of the presentation. Once the session concludes, please raise your hand and hold your question until you've been called on. Alternatively, you may drop questions in the chat. We will get to as many questions as the segment allows. Intermittently, we will drop contact information for our chapter and presenters, and we will have poll questions we would love for you to participate in. Please have your cell phones and your pen and paper ready to capture the information you need to connect. We have a short time together, and we want you to be as comfortable as possible during our seminar. Feel free to take bio breaks as needed. We will conclude segment 1 with our raffle for an Amazon gift card, so stick with us. Now, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Edna Rachal, a financial services professional agent and registered representative with New York Life Securities, LLC, a licensed insurance agency and licensed agent with New York Life Insurance Company. As such, Edna has skills and competence to collaborate with clients and their other professional financial to help identify and implement the optimal estate and business planning strategies, leveraging techniques and knowledge gained through a working relationship with the Advanced Planning Group at New York Life. Edna works with business owners and high net worth individuals in the area of retirement planning, business succession planning, wealth transfer techniques, qualified plans, and executive benefits. Edna has over 30 years of experience in the insurance and financial service industry. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Illinois Wesleyan University and has the distinguished designations in the industry, including Life Underwriting Training Council Fellow and Long-Term Care Professional. She is the 2018 recipient of the NAIFA Quality Award in recognition for her exceptional commitment to service to her clients. She is the 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022 qualifying member of the Million Dollar Roundtable, and she has served as a member of the Agents Advisory Council and is currently serving as a member of the AARP New York Life Agent Advisory Board. In addition, she currently serves as her general office political involvement leader. Please give a warm welcome to Edna Rachal.
Good morning, ladies. Good morning. It's so good to be here with you all. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to present before this group this morning. I want to take some time to just let you guys know that my experience and all of my quote accolades are here as a service to my community and a service to this organization as well. So I'm just glad to be here with you. As Jennifer stated, my name is Edna Rachal. I have been in the insurance and financial industry all of my adult career. Started off with a company that you might know of called Allstate Insurance. Was there for about 13 years with Allstate and from there went into banking with Chase Bank and, not ended my career, but currently brought my clients over to New York Life. New York Life is a full service financial company. People know New York Life as an insurance company, and we are an insurance company, but we're not exclusively insurance. We do all types of financial planning. Jennifer alluded to some of the work that we do with clients through our advanced planning, that is for our high net worth individuals, but we help all clients across the country, no matter what your level of wealth is. We are a full service financial company, AAA rated insurance company. So you're with the best of the best. So again, thank you for allowing me to present in front of you. Thank you. I get some hand claps there. I appreciate that. Okay, so we can bring up the presentation. Okay, very good. And the title of the presentation, as you can see, is Create a Blueprint for Financial Success. And what does that mean, creating a blueprint? The purpose of my part of the workshop is to help you plan as well as manage and get focused on financial goals. I hope by the end of my presentation that I can help you with figuring out and kind of narrowing down different financial areas that you should be considering, what is important, and help to prioritize those, because we can't get to all financial areas at one time, but we put them in priority. What's first, what's second, what's third. And what we do is we break them down into smaller chunks, and then we go after those small chunks. So one key word I want you to take away is action. We want to take action. So many times we are going to get around to it, or I'll get around to that at a later time. But what we want to do today through this presentation is to break it down into chunks and help you to start taking action for those different areas of financial importance. So make sure you have pen and paper, take notes, write down questions, because we will take questions at the end. Write them down or put them in the chat and take pictures of the different slides so that you can take this information, digest the information, and hopefully take action. So that's what I'm here to help you do. Next slide. So this is my contact information. Feel free to take a snapshot of that. My office is located in Deerfield, but I'm licensed in about 20 states across the country. So I do business all over the US. I just came back from Alabama, Tuskegee, had a big veterinarian symposium down there. I was down there working with the veterinarians. My business is to work with people all across the country. So not only do I work with my clients, but I also help their family members and people that you know and care about. So as we go through this presentation today, don't just think about oneself. Think about those that you know, love, and care about. Maybe it's your parents. Maybe it's your siblings. Maybe it's your children. People need to know this financial information. They may not be on the call with us today, but they need to know this. So make sure that you're not just thinking about yourself, but you're thinking about others, and you're going to take this information to share with others. Next slide. This is the company disclosure. So we have to let you know that I am not a tax advisor. I do not provide legal or tax information. Next slide. Okay, so this is where we begin. I like this slide because it kind of breaks it down and it makes it simple for us. It's telling you to think of your finances as a home, as a house. And if I'm not a builder, but I know some basic things about a house. I know that the foundation, which is the protection piece at the bottom, any house that I'm going to purchase, and anybody with any wisdom will purchase a house with a good foundation. And in your financial house, your protection piece is your foundation. Now, we purchase a house for a living space. We want to live and enjoy ourselves in our home. Some of you have beautiful homes. I've been to some of the homes, beautiful furniture. Everything is beautiful. That's our living space. That's our everyday activities. That's where we sleep. That's where we get up. That's where we have our families. When we do family activities, that's our accumulation piece in the financial arena. And accumulation means, what are we doing to save and to build? So that's our living space. And at the top of our house, your financial house, is your preservation. How do we preserve what we've lived and built through the years? You know, some of you have a huge 401ks or IRA accounts or just savings period. How do we preserve that so that we don't give it away to Uncle Sam or predators and creditors? That's the preservation piece. That's called our roof. And like I said, some of you have beautiful homes, beautiful furniture. How would your house be if you didn't have a roof over that? All of your accumulation, your furniture, everything you've saved and worked for will be exposed to the elements. So we're going to talk about how to preserve or put a roof over what we've built over the years of accumulation. Next slide. Budgeting. Budgeting is part of a financial plan. Cash flow is important. You know, if we don't have enough income, that presents a problem with cash flow. We're not bringing in enough to offset our expenses. If we have our expenses are, you know, we need to sometimes minimize expenses. We're doing too much spending in areas that we shouldn't. I work a lot with young people. And if you, any of the young people, you'll see that they have tattoos all over the body. Tattoos are the thing now, and they're gorgeous, they're beautiful, but it's a lot of money that they're investing into these tattoos. That's just one example. Could be nails, hair, shoes, clothing. We have to start minimizing our expenses so that our cash flow will be there for the things that we need. So those are things like our basic expenses, our discretionary expenses. Cash flow is how we live. After we've eliminated all our expenses from our income, the cash flow is what you're saving and what you're developing. That's how we get that accumulation. Next slide. So here we have two basic mindsets. There are generally two financial mindsets. Mindsets are our habitual or mental attitudes that we've developed through the years. This is how we interpret and respond to situation. Now, we're here talking about our financial mindsets. So we have to ask ourselves, do we spend first and save later? That's a mindset. We usually develop these mindsets through our childhood, how we've seen our families handle monies, and we develop that. Do we save first and spend later? That's another financial mindset. And usually, like I said, that's developed through childhood. If you were in a family that didn't have enough, that had a hard time meeting basic expenses, sometimes the lights were cut off, you develop a mindset, beliefs, values, feelings, outlook, and that could make you a saver. And I'm never going to let this happen to me when I grow up. Or you could develop that same mindset that you grew up with. I've learned to spend everything. I've never learned to put a cap on how I'm spending money. And it doesn't matter how much money you're making. If you have that mindset of spend, 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 that's something that you have to work on, because it's hard for you to have that cash flow that we just looked at the previous slide if you have that mindset. So we have to shift how we think of money. Next slide. Okay. Jennifer, were you going to?
Yes, now we're going to have a quick poll to get some more information about our participants to find out how they spend and save.
That should be fun. Because we enjoy life through the pleasures, but are we going to let today's pleasures have us to forget about tomorrow? So let's see the poll that we have. So while Jennifer is getting the poll up, so yeah, when we're talking about mindset, we're looking at are you storing up for tomorrow while you have time on your side to do that? Oh, I think we have a quick question. June has her hand up.
No question.
No question. Okay. Okay. So, when it comes to accumulation, when it comes to building up wealth, we're looking at a time horizon. And a time horizon means how much time do I have to achieve my financial goals? So in some cases, we have if we're young, we have a longer time horizon. When I work with younger people, I encourage them to take advantage of their youth because, we can't make you any younger, but you definitely will get older. And so your time horizon is based on where you are now, whatever age you are now, and how many years before you reach your goal. So if your goal is retirement, how much time before you reach that retirement goal? That means how many years? And that's your time horizon. And so as a young person, I worked with yesterday a 27-year-old woman, and she's a veterinarian. I work with a lot of veterinarians, and we're educating her on things that she needs to do to help start accumulating money because one of her goals is retirement savings. So, we're trying to get programs in place for her to start a retirement plan. So I'm encouraging her to take advantage of her company retirement plan. We have our poll up. So the question is, how do you spend? Check off, do I spend first and save last? Or do I save first and spend last? So we want each of you to take time to answer the poll question. Are we going to go on to poll question number 2, Jennifer, or just stay with one?
Just one for now.
Just one for now. Okay, after you've done that, you can enter your submit. And this is for you. We want you to participate, but we want you to look at your mindset and figure out what type of what kind of financial mindset do I have? And do I need to correct that financial mindset? That's for you to make that determination. Okay, Jennifer, did you have?
You can take it from here. I don't see the poll on my end.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go in and answer mine, and then we'll get back. Okay. Okay, so I think we're a couple of slides ahead of this one. Oh, maybe let's go, I think there's one behind. Let's go back a couple maybe. Okay, we did that one. You're right. Okay, let's move to that one. You're absolutely right. Okay, so now we're going to get to the protection piece. We're going to kind of break that down because, like I said, we're breaking these down into smaller chunks so that we can take action. Remember, we're going to take action and determine which of these as we prioritize them, which of them are most important. So when we look at the protection piece, we can do the next slide. These are the things that we should consider when it comes to protection. This is the first level of your financial house. This is what we call the foundation. These are foundational things that you need to consider. Be sure to take a picture of this slide or take some good notes here. This is when I actually looked up the word protection to see what it actually meant. And it says, if you look it up, it says shelter or to defend someone or something. So sometimes what we're doing in these protection pieces is to protect and defend ourselves, but sometimes it's actually our family as well, not just us, but we're protecting our families. Protection is an essential expression of love. That's what it says in a dictionary. When we do protection, we're expressing love to our families. So it preserves us from injury or harm. So the first two boxes that you're seeing, this is the chunks that I was talking about. We're going to break this down into chunks, are the wills and the power of attorney, POA. Also the trust, not just wills, but also trusts. And our second segment will be with Attorney Julie Annette Jones. She's going to go into details. This is what we call estate planning. But again, this is part of a financial plan. So estate planning is a piece of a financial plan. But we're going to let the expert, Attorney Jones, go into that in the second part of this presentation or workshop today. Next, we have emergency savings. Now, we encourage you to have at least 3 to 9 months of emergency savings. Depends on how much you're able to put aside, but we encourage at least 3 months. Some people say on average 6 is good, but sometimes we even take it as much as 9 months. This is if there's an emergency. What if I get laid off of my job? What if we have a major expense? Maybe my house, that preservation piece that we talked about, maybe my actual home needs a new roof. These are things that, emergencies that come up. Maybe there's an emergency in the family. And so there are emergency situations that come up. And that emergency, 3 to 9 months of emergency fund becomes very important. Debt management. Debt management is, well, the first part of debt management is not to get into debt, extreme debt, curb the spending. But there are also some debt that we have to get into. Maybe you're buying a house, there's a mortgage. Maybe you were in school, you had to take out some debt for, college. There are some debt that, we're going to get into. There's good debt, but there's also bad debt. And in financial planning, we study good debt as opposed to a bad debt. Good debt is anything that's going to give us a return. So maybe the home that you live in, your mortgage, or you have a business, you had to take out a loan for your business, that's good debt. But bad debt is usually short-term debt, credit card debt, things of that nature, spending. So we want to minimize debt where possible. Charitable continuation. This is contribution to our organizations that help in our community. It could be our sorority. It could be church. It could be HBCUs. It could be other organizations that help in our community. We want to start giving back to organizations that help our community because that's how they continue to help the community. So I encourage charitable contributions as well. And charitable continuation, that means we can show you how to continue to contribute to a charitable organization even in your death. So we are educating people on leaving legacies behind to help out those organizations that help in the community. And the bottom, all the bottom squares are talking about the protection through insurance, whether it be your health insurance. That is a protection piece, because if you have a health condition, that health insurance helps to minimize your out-of-pocket. It could be homeowners or auto insurance. Those are protection pieces. If we have an accident, guess what? You're liable for accidents. And if you don't have insurance or sufficient car insurance to mitigate that accident, the cost, expense of that, that protection piece is important. And it's the same for homeowners insurance. Disability income. That is income replacement. That means if you are injured or have a health condition that precludes you from working, this disability income protects your income. And that is a concern. That's an insurance protection piece that is not, people get it through their employment, and that's fine. I'm not discouraging that, but there is also individual disability as well. And we can go over details on how that works. One of the hot items is the next one, and that's called long-term care. That's the piece that is a very hot item now. New York Life is the premier provider for long-term care. We do all the long-term care for AARP. For anyone that didn't know, AARP and New York Life work together on they've asked us to talk to their members about financial planning. And so we're the preferred company when it comes to financial planning through AARP. Long-term care is the kind of policy that you put in place while you're healthy to take care of you in your older years. Especially, I work a lot in the long-term care industry. I have a designation, long-term care professional. That is such an important piece, and that's something that we'll talk about later in the presentation in more detail. Again, write down your questions, because you might have questions in reference to especially long-term care planning. Life insurance. Now, everybody knows New York Life is a life insurance company. So we do life insurance very well. We've been doing life insurance for nearly 180 years. So we have numerous different kinds of life insurance. You know, the two basic kinds are whole life and term life, but there are subcategories under each of those as well. So we'll talk about that throughout the presentation as well. Next slide. Now we're breaking down each of those boxes that you just saw. So here we're again touching on the wills and the power of attorney. And power of attorney, especially a power of attorney, is what you put in place. So when you're not able to act for yourself, this POA, hopefully you have a trusted person that is going to speak on your behalf. A will is how we transfer our assets to the next generation. We name them. Next slide. And again, Attorney Jones is going to go into that in more detail. Emergency fund, we talked about that. The emergency fund is the monies that we have accumulated. Sometimes, ladies, and I don't know if we have any gentlemen on the call. So sometimes, ladies, and perhaps, I don't know, there might be a gentleman out there, we will use other instruments, financial instruments, to help us with emergency fund. I don't know if you know it, a life insurance policy can have cash accumulation, and that can be a source of your emergency fund. So there are ways you can structure this. The money just doesn't have to just sit in a bank and earn 0.00%. There are ways we can structure emergency funds on your behalf. Next slide. Debt management. We alluded to that earlier. Now we're breaking the protection piece down into the chunks. So you should be asking yourself, as we go through these slides, what do I want to prioritize? What is my prioritization? The wills trust? Is my priority debt management, getting my debt in place? We're in the action now. We've got to take notes and think about what you want to take action on. Remember, our operative word is action. So with debt management, or do I want to look at my emergency fund? Is that something I want to tackle? So with debt management, that's common sources of debt. We know that credit card, I'm sure everyone on the call has a credit card, a mortgage. Many of us still have a mortgage. There's student loans. This is all debt, car loans, predatory loans. Preferably nobody on this call goes to those predatory loans, because those are like loan sharks. They have very high interest rates. That's those you go with your car title and things of that nature, or your check, and you give that away. Line of credit, I just saw that pop up. Someone added a line of credit. That's on there. And payday loans. So those are the predatory ones that could be. Okay. Next slide. Oh, okay. The average American has a total of about $96,371 in debt. That's a lot of money. That includes student loans, but you might ask yourself, wow, that's a lot of money. What kind of debt is that? That includes mortgages. That could include any debt, any of the information that you see above that. So that's a lot of debt. A lot of people who have student loans have even more debt than that. I have a niece that just recently graduated from law school. She graduated from Harvard. She has a lot of debt. She has a lot of debt. So I'm sure she has more than 96,000. So next slide. Disability insurance. We talked about that earlier. Disability insurance is well, all insurance is a what if something happens. And disability insurance, what if you have to ask yourself, what if I was unable to work due to an accident or illness? What would happen to me financially? Ask yourself that question. And do I have things in place to mitigate? So things in place might be disability insurance at work. There's long-term disability, there's short-term disability. Know the difference. Short-term, usually not more than 6 months. That could be if you need to go on maternity leave or something like that. Long-term disability can last, until age 67 in a lot of cases. There's work disability, so check with your employer to see how that program works. There's also individual disability. You're able to take out disability insurance on your own. So keep in mind, disability is income replacement. Now, they're going to not replace 100% of your income, because what's the sense of me going to work if I'm collecting 100% of my income by sitting at home? So usually the incentive to get you to get back out there is disability insurance only covers about usually only 60% of your income. So that is the encouragement for you to get back out there and work. So as it says on the slide here, just over 1 out of 4 of today's 20-year-olds will become disabled at some point during their lifetime. Now, we think about disability as having maybe an accident, something like that happens, and of course that can, but a lot of disability is due to illness. I know of someone who was diagnosed with MS in her 30s and became disabled due to that. So disability insurance, be it through your job or you picking up an additional policy outside of the job, we can coordinate benefits with your employer. Have another poll question. And the first part of the question is, what kind of insurance do you have? That's a good one. I like that. Do you have the term life or do you have a whole life policy? And who knows? Who knows? Sometimes we don't know the difference. What's the difference between terms? I know I've heard of those terms, but I don't know what whole life is. I don't know what term life is. So let's take the poll question there. I see a second poll question. Jennifer, do you want them to do all?
Sure, yeah.
Do you have long-term care insurance? That's a good one. Do you have long-term care insurance? In addition to that, do you know what long-term care insurance is? But yes or no. And then, do you have disability insurance? And do you know the difference between long-term care insurance and disability insurance? There is a difference. And sometimes people say, when I talk to them about long-term care, they say, oh, I got that. And what they actually have through their employer is disability. Okay, so disability insurance is an income replacement. Long-term care insurance is designed to provide care for you when you're no longer able to care for yourself. So even sometimes in a long-term care scenario, the bills still come in. That's what disability insurance pays for, is the money that I need to replace my income. We have the results. Okay, what kind of insurance do you have? Most people, it looks like 36% have term insurance. And there's close, second one is, they're tied. Whole life is the second one, and who knows, it's there too. So they're not sure which of the two that they have. And then the next poll question, do you have long-term care insurance? Only 15% of the audience has it, 85% does not. So that could be a topic of conversation. It's long-term care and how it works and how it, again, we're still in the protection piece. Long-term care is what we call an asset protection. It protects your assets from being used for your care. So it's that's why we get it, is because don't want all of our assets to be drained for our care. So all of that accumulation that we saw earlier in the house, the middle part of the house is accumulation, all of that could be wiped out if you don't have protection in place. And long-term care is, again, another one of those protection pieces. Okay, and let's kind of slide it down, because there's that third one there in the poll. It says, do you have disability insurance? And most people, there's a good percentage that do, 32%. I'm not sure if that's through their employer or if they picked up individual disability. And 68% does not have disability income replacement. Okay, and we didn't get to the 401k or the pensions, but we did ask the question, do you have a 401k or pension? Most people do. Pensions, we probably should have separated those out. A pension is more than likely only like 5% or less of people have pensions. Most people have a 401k, and a 401k is not the same as a pension, ladies. It is not the same. So we can go over that a little later. 5% do not. That 5% of people really, I don't know if you're independent contractors or you're self-employed, really need to look at that retirement piece and what you're doing for retirement. I'm assuming you're in the accumulation phase, and we need to be doing some things to accumulate monies for retirement. And then, there's another one. I did not, but I already have had to dip into, I had to dip into it. So that's another piece that we need to do, because you have to pay taxes on that. And so we're looking at minimizing Uncle Sam out of our pocket. So that was our poll question. Next slide. Okay, now that's the question. What is long-term care? What is long-term care? It says 70% of the people turning 65, 70% ladies, 70% of the people, and if there's a gentleman, forgive me, of the people turning 65 can expect to use some form of long-term care during their lives. That's a lot of people. Of the people that are over 65, 70% of those people will use some form of long-term care. May not be in a nursing home. Maybe they're at home having care. Maybe they need hospice care. Maybe they need a community service. Long-term care, like I said, that's the hot item now. What does long-term care mean? So service support or help from others to perform. You have to have service or support or help from others to perform non-medical, everyday tasks. That's what long-term care is. That means I need some help eating, need some help dressing myself, bathing myself, transfer myself, toileting, and continence. Those are what we call ADLs, activities of daily living. Those are the 6 ADLs. So if you can't do the ADLs, and usually it's 2 of the ADLs, then you're going to need, you trigger benefits for long-term care. And it says 4 out of 10 people receive long-term care under age 65. So there are people that are under age 65. And 4 out of 10 of the people under age 65 are using some long-term care. 50% of Americans currently incorrectly believe Medicare will cover the cost of long-term care events. And there might be some people on this call who think Medicare will cover their long-term care expense. Ladies, and perhaps the one gentleman, it won't. Medicare has a very small piece when it comes to long-term care, and usually it's only 100 days. Well, 100 days is not long-term care. So Medicare has very limited when it comes to long-term care, and that's only under certain criteria you even get that. So let's not fool ourselves and think that Medicare is going to cover that. Next slide. Okay, know the facts. Okay, as it says, long-term care is a long-term service and support, including custodial care in a variety of settings, be it at home, be it in a community setting, be it in an organization or other facilities. So these type of policies cover you for whatever care is needed. Most people want to be at home and receive care for as long as possible. The policies provide a care provider to come into the home and provide that care, but it also provides if you have to be in a community setting or in an assisted living facility or in a nursing home and even hospice care. Policies reimburse policy holders up to a pre-subscribed or pre-selected limit for services. And we went over those activities of daily living, dressing, bathing yourself, feeding yourself, transfer, continence, and toileting are the triggers of long-term care policies. That definition of long-term care is an IRS definition. And a definition means that if I can't do 2 of those activities of daily living, or I have a cognitive impairment that is expected to last at least 90 days, then I trigger the benefits. Cognitive impairment might be Alzheimer's, dementia. That is what the triggers are for your long-term care benefit to kick in from your long-term care policy. Next slide. Life insurance. That's the fun one. People love life insurance. When it comes to life insurance, ownership matters. Next slide. So, ownership means, does my employer own the life insurance? Do I just have it through my employment? Or do I have my own personal life insurance? I've been in the life insurance business a long time, and I always, when I speak to people, oh, I got that taken care of, I'm done. And I asked them, what do you have? Oh, I got that through my job. And I said, oh, and I always know that I'm talking with a novice at that point, because the policy that you have through your employer is not your policy, first of all. That's the employer's policy. That means that they can adjust and change their policy or eliminate it altogether. I know when I first started working, my first employer, I got 5 times my income. So whatever my income, I multiplied that. Guess what? Employers are not, most of them are not doing that anymore. Some of them have set amounts. You get 50,000 or 100,000, some as low as 10,000. I think the city of Chicago is 25,000 for their employees. Not a lot. They have control over that. You do not. And then if you ever separate service, I'm sure you're not going to work at this same employer for the rest of your life. If you quit, if you get laid off, if you get fired, even if you retire, that benefit does not follow you. So I'm sure people here have had numerous employers, some of them, and the insurance that you had at your first employer, I know I don't have that, because once you separate service, if they do allow you to take it with, it's not going to be at the group rate. So the group rate is going to be much cheaper. Once you want to take the policy on your own, now you have to pay 5 to 10 times what you were paying as part of the group. So it behooves a person to look at personal life insurance. Life insurance is an age-based product. What I mean by that is the younger you get started in a life insurance, the cheaper it is. So I'm encouraging my young people to lock in on those premiums, because the longer you kick the can down the road and say, I think, because I get a lot of 50, 60, even 70-year-olds who say, I think I need to look at life insurance. Now they're at the point where they realize this becomes an important part of your portfolio. And so, but now they're 60 years old, and the prices for insurance at that age is not going to be what it was when you were 20. So it behooves you to act upon life insurance as young as possible and also as healthy as possible. Life insurance is a medically underwritten policy. So is long-term care. These are medically underwritten, as well as disability income. Get those in place while you're healthy. I work a lot with AARP because we're the provider for AARP members. A lot of them are contacting me when they have a need for care, long-term care. We have to be proactive when it comes to these type policies, not reactive. Don't call when you just got diagnosed with some form of need an operation or some kind of cancer, and now you're calling saying, hey, Edna, you told me about that life insurance. I'm ready for it now. That's being reactive. Okay, we have to be proactive when it comes to these type of policies. Okay, next slide. Okay, so life insurance provides a source of cash. Okay, what that means is that life insurance is designed for cash. It's designed for leaving a legacy behind, legacy transferring of wealth. We always talk about wealth transfer, leaving a legacy. Those are hot topics now. Life insurance does that for you. And it is the most efficient way to transfer wealth. You know, I might have not have accumulated a lot of wealth during my lifetime, but if I purchase a life insurance policy, guess what? Now I can transfer wealth to the next generation. Most efficient way. It doesn't require that I accumulate and amass. It says, you buy me, and immediately upon your death, I will give your family or your loved ones a large source of cash. So that's what it does on an immediately basis. But as it says here, and on the slide, it says replace the loss of income of a wage owner. So especially if there's a husband and wife situation, life insurance will replace the wages that was lost if there was one of the spouses were to expire. It replaces wages. It offsets outstanding debt, pays off outstanding debt for mortgages, credit cards, car and student loans, business loans. I work with a lot of business owners, and this is a source for business owners. Life insurance is huge when it comes to business planning. You might have a key person that if this key person were to pass away, now if they pass away, we have money into the business that can help us to figure out what we're going to do because we just lost our key salesperson, perhaps. Or in family situations, if a spouse passes, now we have money to pay off the mortgage. So now the family doesn't have to be outplaced from the home because now the life insurance has given us the money to pay off the mortgage. It keeps your family in the home. That's what I was just describing. It keeps the family in the home so that the children don't have to be trying to figure out, now we have to move because we didn't have money. We just lost our spouse and now we have to move because there's no money to pay the mortgage. That just turns the family upside down. First of all, the children have just lost their, one of their parents, and now they're about to lose their home and their friends and the school that they knew. It just becomes life insurance in place eliminates a lot of that. We can't bring back our lost loved one, but we can help keep you in the home and can help keep you in the community and the school that the kids know and love. Allows the family to grieve without worrying about bills. Pays estate and other taxes. Life insurance is an estate planning tool. And we use that hugely at New York Life. How to do estate planning with life insurance to pay off the estate plan, the estate taxes that are associated with large estates. That's one of our the things that we do on a huge basis at New York Life. Keep business going until things can be figured out. That's what I was mentioning earlier. If a key person in a business were to pass away, now we have money influxed in the business can continue to run while we get a new person to replace the person that we just lost. Next slide. Okay, term versus perm. I saw in the poll that we had a lot of people who had term, and we had even a good number of people who had permanent life insurance. There are two basic kinds of life insurance. That's what we call temporary term. And if you can see, that's for rent. It's like renting. I have it for this, like you're renting an apartment. I have this apartment for this long, but I don't own it. Just like with term insurance, you do own the policy, but it's not permanent. Whereas permanent life insurance, as you can see on the other side, is one that we have ownership. We purchase it, we have ownership. So that a permanent life insurance is going to last as long as we do in those cases. So permanent life insurance is a cash value whole life. That's one form of permanent life insurance. And cash value, oh, that's huge right there. That's part of the living benefit. You know, I was talking with Jennifer earlier. She said, wow, there's more to life insurance than a death benefit. Yes, there's more to life insurance than death benefit. There is living benefits with life insurance, whether it's term insurance or whole life insurance. Term insurance has a living benefit as well. I'll give you this example. I worked with a lady for many years. I work a lot within families. So this woman was my client. Her cousin had referred me to her. And I sat with her at a Starbucks, and we talked about the life insurance. She was only able to afford a term policy. We put that policy together for her. And what happened is that about 5 or 6 years later, she was diagnosed with a aggressive form of cancer. And I talk to my clients all the time. I call them just to say hello, what's going on. I called her about 6 years. We talked along the way, but 6 years into the policy, I called her one day and I said, her name is Denise. I said, Denise, how you doing? What's going on? Just checking in on you. Oh, she says, oh, Edna, I'm so glad you called. She said, I just been diagnosed with, I think it's called myeloma. I think that's the name of this. It's in a very aggressive form of cancer. And I said, oh my God, I didn't know that. What's going on? And she told me about it. And I told her, I said, Denise, do you know that your policy, you have a living benefit in your term life insurance? You're actually able to draw the money, the death benefit from your term policy and use it while you're living. She says, what? She was like, I was like, yeah, you can use this term life insurance while you're living. She didn't believe it. She was like, oh, she didn't think it would happen. But New York Life allowed her to draw down the death benefit of this term policy, and she was able to pay her expenses. She had a lot of expenses, and she was a substitute teacher. Didn't have a lot of money, but for her, she couldn't sub anymore because she was too weak to do this job. And that money came into such a beautiful thing for her. It helped her so much. She was able to stay in her apartment, to pay her mortgage, to pay her rent. She was able to pay her car note. She was so thrilled. And she was able to pull down over $100,000 of money to use for her living expenses and her conditions. So there are living benefits in life insurance. Life insurance is not just a death benefit. In permanent life insurance, you have cash accumulation. Term doesn't have cash accumulation, but permanent life insurance. And I can give you numerous stories of my clients who have pulled money out of their whole life policy and they use it for everyday expenses. And that's how that becomes an emergency source. Cash value. All the cash value in your policy grows tax-free. Who doesn't like tax-free? Take advantage of these financial tools, ladies. These are tools that you can use for your family. Educate, like I said at the beginning of the presentation. Share this information with your family. People need to know this information. These are financial tools that we can use to help us to meet our financial goals. Life insurance is a financial tool. Lots more than just death. Next slide. Accumulation. That is the second. We did protection. At the bottom, you'll see the protection. Now we're in the accumulation phase. Everybody loves accumulation because we're saving and we're growing. And that's exciting for people, being in the stock market and letting this money grow. And I just love to look at my statements, at least when the market is up. Now, when the market is down, I don't like to look at those statements. But accumulation means that I am building and growing. I'm trying to amass a quantity of money that can be used over time for whatever I need it for. So I'm accumulating. Next slide. So one purpose of accumulation is college funding. A lot of people have small kids. They're trying to accumulate money for college. The average American carries over $35,000 in student loan debt. Now, I work with veterinarians and I know they got a lot more than $35,000. So it varies. But on average, the student loan debt is about $35,000. But it's never too late to start saving and accumulating money for college. We can do that in numerous ways. People are familiar with 529s. That's one way to accumulate money for college, to save for the young people, be it your grandkids or your own kids. There's also another form is cash value life insurance. Did you know the cash value of your life insurance? I just spoke with a lady yesterday who's pulling down about $3,000 to help her granddaughter with some college expenses. This is the cash value that's inside the life insurance. The beauty of the cash value inside the life insurance is that it can be used for whatever. So if the kid goes to college, there's money for college. But if the kid doesn't go to college, they want to start a business. They want to have money for a down payment on a home. They want to have money for future retirement needs, expenses. The cash value of life insurance can be used for whatever you want it for, and at any point you want to use it. I don't have to wait till I'm 59 and a half to take a distribution from my cash value life insurance. But with my IRA account, I have to do that. With my 401k, I have to do that. Otherwise, I am what? I got to pay a penalty. That's a 10% penalty that I have to give Uncle Sam that I never see again. And for sure, when I start taking distributions from my IRA or 401k, I got to pay the tax on it, unless it's a Roth. But if it's not, then I have to pay Uncle Sam monies that I would never see again. Pulling down money out of the cash value of your life insurance, you don't have any penalties. You don't have to pay taxes. And guess what, ladies? You don't even have to pay it back if you choose not to. And I encourage my clients to put it back, because the next time you need money, you want it to be there. But you don't. You do not have to pay your life insurance loan, policy loans back. Next slide. So retirement planning, that's another accumulation. Okay. And there's 3 ways you can accumulate money. One is taxable. That could be personal savings, your CDs, that's taxed now. That's taxable. Personal savings are taxable. The next one is tax deferred. That's something that you're deferring the tax on. You got to pay it. You're just going to send it down the road for later. That would be your IRA accounts, your 401ks, your 403bs, your SEP, your simple IRAs. All of those are tax deferred instruments. All of these are instruments, but there are different tax categories of financial instruments. And the third one is our tax-free. That should be music to your ears. There are some things that you can save, instruments that you can save in that you don't have to pay Uncle Sam. I want to know as much about those instruments as possible, because that's how we preserve our wealth. If you're accumulating, then you reach age 59 and a half or 63 or whatever the age is when you're going to start taking the distribution, or 73. And you have a silent partner with those categories in number 2. And that's Uncle Sam. He tells you how much you're going to give him. He's your partner. So if I have a deferred compensation and I'm going to start taking my distribution at age 73, because the RMD age now is 73. It used to be 70 and a half. It's 73 now. And in another few years, it's going to be 75. For those who don't know, RMD, I think it's another 10 years, they're going to bump it to 75. RMD is your required minimum distribution. You're required by the IRS to start taking distribution. But right now it's at 73. So say I have a deferred comp and I'm going to start taking distribution at 73. I have a partner that I have to share my distribution with, and he's called Uncle Sam. So if I take down 100,000, then I have to give anywhere from 20 to 30% of that 100,000, which is 20,000 or $30,000 to Uncle Sam. I never see those dollars again. Understand that when you're looking at qualified plans, that's just the nature of the beast. The third one is we're looking to do things on a tax-free basis, as much money as we can. So things like your Roth IRA account or Roth 401k, if your employer offers a Roth 401k, participate. Because now you can accumulate that money, and when it's time to take a distribution, you do not have to pay taxes on the distribution. You've gotten rid of your silent partner, Uncle Sam. Cash value life insurance is another way to accumulate money on a tax-free basis. These are the living benefits of life insurance. We sometimes don't know about it. And we have to learn these financial tools and how to maximize them. I have one client, and I mentioned this to the ladies the other day, that had over $1 million in his retirement account, 401k, and he didn't need it. So we instructed him how to be more efficient to leave the money behind. So what he's doing is taking money out of the 401k and dumping it into life insurance. Every year, he's taking money out of the 401k, the taxable event, because he's going to be taxed on this. He's dumping it into life insurance. Now the money is going to grow tax-free for him. If he passes away, we're going to leave much more of a death benefit to his loved ones. But if he lives and needs money, now he has this big wad of tax-free money that he can pull from his life insurance. These are the living benefits of life insurance. Build up that tax-free dollars that you can use as your emergency fund, that you can use for retirement, that you can use as an educational funding for your children. Take advantage of that. And it just doesn't have to be whole life. Whole life is one way to accumulate, but there are variable policies as well. Some of my younger clients don't want the whole life because they want to be in the stock market. They like the excitement of the ups and downs of the market. And guess what? They can get that in a variable life insurance policy. Anything that's variable when it comes to financial, it means that it's in the market. If you hear the word variable, it's in the stock market. So those are the three. Taxable, that's your savings account. Tax deferred are your retirement accounts for the most part, and tax-free, very limited things that IRS is going to let you get out of paying tax on. But your Roth is one, your Roth 401k, your Roth IRA, and your cash value life insurance. Next slide. Now here, we're still in the accumulation. And so when we're accumulating money, which is in a lot of times for retirement plans, we're looking at our risk tolerance. Risk tolerance is what kind of investor are you? Are you aggressive? Are you moderate? Or are you conservative? It's okay to be whatever you are. As we get closer to retirement, we should be more conservative. But if we're, midway from retirement, we might be moderate. If we're very young, we might be aggressive because why? We have a long time horizon. So time to retirement, that's our time horizon, the second half of the slide. So at a younger age, the smaller bars that you see, that's young people. They don't have to save as much. But as we get older, we have to start saving more. That's why it's incumbent upon us to start saving, get our young people, if there's young people on the call, start your accumulations now. For our more mature people that are on call, encourage your children. These young people that have jobs, encourage them to start saving for retirement now. I open up a lot of Roth IRA accounts for my younger clients, cash value whole life policies, cash value variable policies for my young people so that they can start not just accumulating and saving, but saving tax-free. It's great to save, but it's even better to save tax-free. We don't have Uncle Sam in our pocket. So when they get their $1 million, now they don't have to, at this gentleman's age, he was 60-some years old, putting money in the cash value policy. They started at a young age. Now they have $1 million of tax-free dollars that they can access when they need to, if they start young. Encourage remember I said at the beginning of the call, think about other people, not just, you might say, I'm set, but there's people in your family that you love, your children, your nieces, people that you care about. Let's get them set as well. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about that. We did the bottom one, which was protection. We did accumulation. Now we're going to talk about preservation. That's the roof of the financial house. Things that we need to put in place to preserve what we've earned, what we've accumulated. Remember we said the big, beautiful house that didn't have a roof. So when the rain and elements came, everything is destroyed. No, you can go to the next slide. So now we're at what we call preservation, meaning that we're preserving. These are tools. Remember, all of these are financial tools that we've been talking about. Let's use these financial tools to achieve our goals. Tools to preserve your lifestyle and your wealth. Okay, so we want to implement strategies. Preservation is to implement strategies to help you keep more of what you save. That's the whole purpose of preservation, to keep what we've accumulated. So some of them are risk management. We talked about risk management earlier. That's just your risk tolerance. What kind of investor are you? So when you get closer to retirement, we should be dialing it back a little bit. You know, you don't have to dial it all back, but that money that you need to live off of, that should be pretty safe. But any other money above that, you can have it in the market, but not the money that we need to feed ourselves on a regular basis. So that's risk assessment. We need to assess what kind of risk you should be in, your risk tolerance. The second one is the orderly estate transfer. That's, again, a preservation piece. Remember, we talked about the wills, the trust, all of that's part of preservation. Power of attorney, hopefully you're choosing the right person, because that power of attorney, when you can't speak for yourself anymore, hopefully they're pretty wise to help preserve your estate. And our attorney, Julie Annette Jones, will get into that, I'm sure, in greater detail. Pension maximization. That's another way to preserve your estate. There are strategies that we can put in place to maximize our pension. That's something we can talk about offline, or if you have questions about that. Required minimum distribution. Again, we talked about that. We call that RMDs, required minimum distribution. That's when the IRS requires that you start taking distribution. There are things you can do to make that more efficient. And again, we can talk about how to make that the most efficient for us when we start taking distribution from those qualified IRAs, 401ks, deferred comp, 403bs, 457. I saw that earlier. Somebody said 457. The next one is retirement readiness through budget analysis. Okay, so we have to look at retirement readiness. We have what we call the retirement red zone. The retirement red zone is 10 years before retirement and 10 years after retirement. That is the most crucial years to make the right decisions on retirement, is doing the retirement red zone. The 10 years before, we should be doing things to make our monies more conservative. We should be looking at, things like long-term care, all of that during the first 10 years. And then the 10 years after, we have to have the right distribution so that retirement will have money throughout retirement. Ladies, the retirement is longer than it used to be. That's why companies have gotten away from pensions, because it used to be a person retired at 65, and by the time they were 70, 75, they were dead. So they could afford to pay out 10 years or 5 years for a pension. But now, guess what? We got people retiring at 65, living to 75, 85, 95. My best friend, her mother-in-law just passed away last year, 105 years old. That's 40 years in retirement. So those companies are like, hey, we can't afford a pension. That's why most companies don't offer pensions. because people are living 40 years into retirement and they have to pay you a check every single month for 40 years. That's a lot of money. So we have to have what we call retirement readiness. And the last one we have is what we call guaranteed lifetime products. That's the bottom one there, and that gives us income for life. So there are products that you can put in place that will give you a check for life. Next slide. Most people don't fail. I mean, don't plan to fail, and we all know this. They fail to plan. So, next slide. Okay, and that's just back to our financial house. We talked about the protection piece, how that is our foundation. Any good house has a good foundation. The accumulation piece, that's saving. The accumulation age is your working ages. During those working years, that's when you're accumulating. The retirement years are your distribution years. So I think, depends on the age of our audience, would determine where they are in the accumulation or the distribution. And then the preservation is how do we keep what we've accumulated, your financial house. Next slide. So person to person, help to craft and execute your unique strategy. So again, we went over the financial blueprint, things that you can think about. Some things you might have in place already, some things you might need to kind of look at. We want you to prioritize what comes, what you want to tackle first. But these are the strategies that you need to take action on. And up to date, you have to update and review your progress as you go through it at least once a year, sometimes even more. So next slide. And this is New York Life. I'm one of the New York Life advisors. I've been in the business, a long time, well over 30 years. New York Life, does it matter which company you choose to do business with? Yes, it does. Not all companies are the same. New York Life is a AAA rated company. This is our ratings by all the rating agencies, whether it's AM Best, Moody's, Fitch, Standard & Poor's. You're with the highest financial company, been in business for almost 180 years. So you have the highest ratings with the strongest financial company out there. So that's why, yeah, it does make a difference what company you decide to do business with. Next slide. Okay, so as we said, educate yourself, think about what your goals are. We went over things that you should think about, prioritize your goals. You can't do everything at once, but think about what's the most important, what goal you want to tackle first, develop a strategy and take action. The operative word is to take action, update and review your progress at least once a year, preferably, more frequent than that. Next slide. Okay, thank you. Now, I don't know what my time frame is. I don't know.
It's about 11:20, and we appreciate you going through all those topics. That was awesome. I think at this point, we need to check and see who has a question. Does anybody have their hand raised that would like to ask a question?
Oh, Rosalind. Hello,
Rosalind?
Miss Rosalind, how you doing?
Oh, hi, Edna. How are you?
I'm doing good.
A wonderful presentation, overview,
Thank
and
you.
advice. Specifically, I'm curious about long-term policies, which are typically very expensive if you're in the mature part of your life. So are there other instruments that would provide the care needed, or the other policies that would avoid a medical screening that could provide benefits for long-term care, even though it's not considered a typical long care policy?
Yes, thank you, Rosalind. Thank you for that question. Yeah, there are other strategies. Like I said, I work a lot with long-term care, with AARP, and get a lot of calls in from long-term care members. Some of them are being reactive. They might already have a need for care. And then some of them are being proactive. They're looking in advance. But for those that are may not want to go through a health screening because, like we said, long-term care is a medically underwritten policy. So
Right.
you're not getting long-term care if there's some, questions with the medical. So now what do you do if you're in a situation where you want it? Either you don't want to go through the health screening, or you may not, qualify for it. So what I have designed, what we've been designing is using what we call a qualified longevity account. It's called the QLAC. Okay, you can even Google this. It's called the qualified, it's QLAC, qualified longevity annuity contract. And what that does for you, you don't have to go through any underwriting for that. The IRS allows you, under the QLAC, allows you to delay up to $200,000. Okay, so most times when you reach age 73, you have to start taking distributions. The IRS says that we will allow $200,000 to be delayed until age 85. Now you still have to take the distribution, and we're talking about qualified programs, your IRAs, your 401ks, and such. You can delay the distribution until age 85 if you put the money into the QLAC. Now, why use the QLAC? Because the QLAC is going to give you a lump sum of money at age 85 or sooner. You don't have to wait till you're 85. You can get it sooner, but the IRS says you can't go past 85. But up to age 85, you can start taking distributions, and those distributions are, in most cases, a lot of money. Because we're paying a payout rate sometimes of 25%. 25% payout rate on those dollars. Now, those dollars can be used for whatever you need it to use it for, including a long-term care event. So that's how you can get around that underwriting piece, medical exam piece of the long-term care policy, is to take advantage of the QLAC. Because if you bring over, say, 100,000, 25% of 100,000, that's 25,000 a year that can be used for your care. If you bring over 200,000, that could be up to 50,000. So what I'm saying is that use these financial tools. There are ways that we're educating clients on how to use that, because if for whatever reason that you don't qualify or don't want to go through the underwriting for the long-term care policy, the traditional policy, then that becomes another avenue, another financial tool that you can use in your toolbox to help you meet the need for care and not have to go through all of your assets for your care.
And that's also has a death benefit, should you?
Yeah, it does, because if you pass away, the amount that is remaining in your account will be paid to your heirs. So you don't lose that due to a death. That is not money that New York Life is going to keep because you pass away. All of our accounts, you name a beneficiary. So this is not like the government, where if you pass away, or your pension through your job, if you pass away, unless you have a spouse, you lose everything. Not with us.
I have a follow-up question, but I'm going to defer until other people weigh in. It's similar to this this aspect of retirement and protecting.
Exactly. I saw a lot of things pop up in the chat, but because I was going through the presentation, I couldn't read. I don't know if there was any questions that kind of popped up during my presentation, Jennifer.
Yeah, there are some questions here. One is if an amount was taxed, the gentleman that you mentioned who moved his finances to a life insurance vehicle, the millionaire, when he moved that money, was it taxable to the life? Okay, it was taxable then.
You can't get out of it, but the growth moving forward will be non-taxable. So now he's moving money from a taxable event into a non-taxable. So future growth, because the money is going to grow where it is. But when he moves it over to the life insurance, now it's still going to grow, but it's going to grow tax-free. So where it is, it's growing, but it's getting to be even a larger taxable event. So, but yes, once he brings the money over, of course, he has to pay taxes on that.
Thanks, Jennifer. That was my follow-up question.
Oh, how about
Oh,
that?
good.
How about that?
Anybody else have a question for Edna?
There were some questions that you had emailed from throughout the week as well. And I believe that was a question, someone had a question about universal life policies.
Yeah, I think it was a difference in a universal life. Let's see.
So while you're looking that up, let's kind of look at universal life. A universal life is what we call a hybrid policy. It is considered a permanent life insurance. Remember, we talked about permanent and term. It is considered a permanent, but we look at it kind of like a little different than your traditional whole life policy. And I talked with one lady yesterday, and she was very upset because she signed up years ago for a universal life, and the person who told her said, oh, she came into the office wanting whole life, and the person told her, oh, this is the same. It's the exact same thing. It's not a universe. That's why they call it universal life. It's not the same as a whole life policy. Okay. A universal life, we call it a hybrid policy. It has some features of permanent. It is considered in the permanent category, but it has some features of a temporary term policy. So for her situation is she started paying at $68 a month. Now with her universal life policy, she's paying $200 a month premium. And that's why we kind of put it in a category of a term, because that policy, it will go up. And again, I tell you, it's no right or wrong policy, it's what's right for you. But in a lot of cases, I kind of steer away from universal life. I do offer those, but we have what we call a universal life custom guarantee policy. And what that policy does is it kind of gives you a guarantee that the premium on that policy will never go up. So a universal life policy, I don't want to get into a lot of details about the nuances. It's an interest-sensitive policy. It doesn't lock in your insurance cost. And so therefore, that's why every year there's mortality expenses in life insurance. And this is probably more than what you guys want to know. But with a whole life policy, your mortality expense is locked in. With a universal life policy, it's not. That's why you can see the premium going up over a time period. So that's probably more than what you want to know about universal life. But it's not, the bottom line is it's not the same as a whole life policy. So if you have to take anything with you, take that with you.
Okay. I see here there's some questions about investments. Can you tell us the best way to establish funds for children?
So there's a lot of different ways. I have one child. I have a Roth IRA on one of my kid clients. Now you can't open up an IRA unless you work. So this is a child actor. She has commercials on TV and things like, so she can contribute to a Roth. But we have that for her. But we also, we encourage, it depends on the purpose of saving for the children. I mean, cash value whole life for a child is a great mechanism to save because they're saving tax-free. The Roth is for working kids. So again, they can save tax-free. But if you want to start kids in stock, you know, if there's a favorite stock that they like, it used to be, you know, years ago, McDonald's, but maybe now it may be Amazon, who knows? But, you know, you can encourage your kids to look at and study stock, and they can buy, you know, individual stock. I mean, there are different ways that you can save for kids, again, depending on what the goal is, you know, what you're trying to achieve, and that's going to dictate, you know, the way to save. Some kids just save in their regular savings account. You know, it's nothing against that. That gets a kid, if they can go to the bank. I used to have this for my son. We would go to the bank whenever he would get money for allowance or for his birthday, and get him going to the bank, filling out the form himself, and making the deposit. Now, you're not getting a whole lot of money, but what you're doing is trying to train the kid to start that relationship with banking, to start him going into the bank and to depositing money so he can see his bank statement. He can see it growing so those are some educational kind of getting them into savings if you want it. So it all depends on the purpose that you're trying to get the kid to start saving. We always look at
Okay.
purpose.
Okay. There's another question that asked how or can I insure a loved one if they don't have life insurance?
Yeah, so you can insure, you have to have an insurable interest with this person. So I can't just say, oh, Jennifer, you look healthy, I'm gonna take out an insurance policy on you. I can't do that because I don't have an insurable interest with Julie. So insurable interest means that if this person were to pass on, I would experience a loss. Okay, so it might be your brother. I have a lady who wants to do a policy on her brother. There's an insurable interest there because if he passes, now I have to pay out of pocket for his funeral. So the answer is yes, you can insure a loved one or anybody that you can prove that you have an insurable interest. If they were to pass away, you would lose financially. Of course, they have to know about it. So they have to sign the application. I can't insure anybody who does not sign the application unless it's a minor. Okay, I can insure my kids, but any adult person has to sign the application.
There's a question here, which I anticipated, on an average cost to do an estate planning.
I think that's a question for the attorney.
Attorney, okay.
Mhm.
What about services for like low income? You said you work with varying type of income levels, so they would just need to contact you if they had questions.
Yeah, we work with everybody. These type of financial tools are important for everybody, especially people of limited means, because these financial tools become even more important for them. Right. Especially life insurance, because again, that is the most efficient way to pass on wealth to the next generation. So I have low income, therefore I may not have accumulated a lot myself, but I can purchase a life insurance for 200, 300,000, 500, $1 million, perhaps, depends on your level of income. Now I can transfer that wealth to the next generation so that we won't always be low income.
Okay. I think Rosalind might have a question.
Rosalind?
Yeah, me again. Sorry. There were those who made comment that they did have pensions and very blessed people. I want to thank you for helping me develop my pension through an annuity.
That's
so
right.
For those who are in the older category, if you don't have a pension, Edna has tools and strategies to help in that regard as well.
Exactly. So we do the personal pension, and thanks for bringing that out, Rosalind. Personal pension is what New York Life does, because we know that the companies have gotten away from pensions. So what is a pension? A pension is a check in the mail for as long as you live. We want checks coming in the mail. Ladies, do not try to live off of your accumulation. Now, our basic living expenses and our discretionary expenses should be through income when you're retired. Income, not from your investments. What Rosalind is talking about is that we've put together a personal pension where she gets a check in the mail every single year from New York Life, no matter how long Rosalind lives. And if she lives 40 years into retirement, like my girlfriend's mother-in-law, 40 years, this woman passed away at 105, New York Life would have paid Rosalind a check in the mail for possibly 30 or 40 years. So the money that Rosalind initially brought over will be exhausted by that time. Now she's 100% on New York Life's dollars. I have clients that are like that. I have a 90-year-old up in, I think he's in Waukegan. He's 100% on New York Life dollars. He brought over an initial amount. And when that's exhausted, what the guarantee is, we will pay you, no matter how long you live, a check in the mail for the rest of your life.
That
If
sounds
you're an independent contractor or if you're a person that has your own business, you want to look at that.
okay. Very good. That sounds like a product many of us could look into. Edna, I appreciate you going through all of these particulars with us. Can you just give us a verbal on how they can reach you if they want to contact you for services?
I appreciate that. My name is Edna Rachal. I'm a New York Life representative. My direct dial is 847-274-4853. 847-274-4853. Email is E as in Edna, M Mary Rachal, Rachal, EM Rachal at, I don't know why they do this, but it's FT. That still stands for Field Technology, ft.newyorklife.com.
Thank you. And we
You're
have that in the chat for you guys as well. Now it is time for our raffle. Drum roll, please. We're going to have a raffle now for a chance to win a $25 Amazon gift card brought to you by Schaumburg-Hoffman Estates Alumni Chapter. Barbara. Is Barbara on the line? If you're Barbara and put your name in the chat, we'll get you your gift card. Let's do one more, if you don't mind. Webmaster. Let's do one more raffle. Thank you. Let's see. Janelle, if you're a winner, give a wave and let everybody know that you won Amazon gift cards. Thank you. Okay, the protocol for segment 2 is going to be the same, and since we're a little over, it is now my distinct pleasure to introduce our segment's second speaker, Attorney Julie Annette Jones. Julie was born in Chicago and raised in the Roseland community. She's a graduate of Whitney Young High School and Illinois State University. She furthered her education at Emory Law School in Georgia. Even while in law school, community service was an important part of Julie's life. Emory recognized her as a recipient of one of the first public service awards for law school graduates. Julie is committed to making a first class legal assistance accessible and convenient within our communities. She presents at several legal education sessions monthly, and prior to the pandemic, she volunteered at a legal services clinic which provided free estate planning documents to low income seniors. She also volunteered for several cases a year, providing foreclosed mediation to low income clients. Julie was a corporate attorney for over 15 years. For the last 12 years, she's had her own practice. Her primary practice areas are estate planning, real estate, and small business setup. In January of 2017, Julie was appointed by Governor Bruce Rauner to the Illinois State University Board of Trustees, which serves as the 8-person governing body for the university. She is a past chair of the board, where she was the first African American and first woman to serve in that role. Julie is committed to organizational service and volunteerism, which spans further than membership and has an emphasis on leadership. She is currently the Social Action and Advocacy Chair of the Chicago Central section of the National Council of Negro Women. Julie is a proud 35th year member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, initiated at Illinois State University's Theta Delta chapter, and is currently a member of the Chicago Alumni chapter. Attorney Julie Annette Jones, thank you so much for joining us this morning to navigate us through getting our legal house in order through disability and death. What an important topic. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Soror. Thank you all for coming this morning. I am a high energy, big voice, big personality attorney. But when I'm not attorneying, I'm actually quiet and low key. So believe it or not. So when I first transitioned, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I like Edna. Sometimes when you listen to all that, it's kind of embarrassing and it sounds kind of self-aggrandizing. The reason all of that is there is to show you that public service is what I do, and education is what I do. So even in my legal services, I want to make sure that I provide information that is important to our community. The vast majority of the people who come to my presentations are never going to be my clients, and I'm fine with that. But just as Edna said, and I echo that, this information is not always for you. This is information to pass on to others. I used to say, I do lots of presentations. I'm starting to get back out. I started doing this whole Zoom thing and Facebook Lives and all of that during the pandemic, but I much rather meet with people in person. But I can appreciate the convenience of this, where you all can be at home eating your sausage biscuits and having some coffee and still getting some good information, maybe having your pajama bottoms on or your yoga pants, and not having to get out into the world to get this information. So I appreciate that. When I used to be at presentations in person, I would tell everybody, you've been deputized. You have been deputized with this information to go out and let your friends and family know the importance of this. That doesn't make you a lawyer. You got just enough information to be dangerous. You don't have enough information to give anybody any legal advice. But what you can say to them is, I don't remember all the details, but I remember when I was on that presentation, the attorney said this is important, and this is important enough that you need to seek legal advice, and so you should call the attorney. So a lot of my clients come from me in that way. I do have to give a disclaimer because I am an attorney, and that's what we have to do. And my soror already provided this, but this is information for informational purposes only. I'm not giving you specific legal advice. You need to seek legal counsel for your own specific situations. And as much as possible, I like to preserve people's privacy. And I know sometimes when people get in this arena, a lot of people are not used to being exposed to attorneys. So they want to start giving me their particulars for their case so they can get a little consultation here. But it's important for an attorney to protect your privacy. And so if you have specific issues, my preference is that you contact me afterwards and that we take care of those. So we're going to keep it very general here as much as possible. I am a church girl at heart. I am a usher at my church and a trustee at my church. And so you're going to hear a little church in here. But I also believe that this is serious. People get hung up. Who wants to talk about dying every day? Who wants to talk about getting sick every day, right? So I add a lot of humor, tasteful humor, but part of that reason for that bio, as my pastor said, IE is learned. I have many degrees. I chose not to have those on the background because I like where the money is on the background, but don't take me making a joke or making this lighter for lack of expertise. I've been an attorney for, I can't believe it, it'll be 30 years coming up here soon. I can't believe I missed it. I got sworn in on April Fool's Day. So you can imagine, I thought it was a joke and something was going to happen, and I wasn't going to get sworn in, but I actually did. I have been practicing for quite a while, and I've seen lots and lots of scenarios, and so I have lots and lots of information. As the years have gone by, I have found different ways to present this information so that it is relevant and so you remember it. I train attorneys, so I can certainly give you all the case law and all of that. That's pretty boring. It's Saturday morning. We're going to loosen up a little bit. We're going to have some fun. Please use the chat. I love that I see people in the chat. I've done enough of these now that I glance at the chat every now and again. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to have some fun. I'm going to tell some stories that demonstrate some estate planning principles. This is a serious matter, but I want you to relax, have fun, listen to the examples, throw some stuff in the chat if you want to, because all of us have been exposed to estate planning on some level, whether we know it or not. So when I first started doing estate planning, when I transitioned from corporate law, I was a corporate attorney for 15 years, and I worked for the phone company. It was MCI at first. Then it became MCI WorldCom. Then it became WorldCom. Then it became Verizon. Then it became Frontier. Then I became tired. And I said, enough is enough. I'm tired of all these different bosses. I'm tired of all these different business cards. I hope not to offend anybody, but if I do, so what? I'm tired of training all of these younger, non-melanated males to be my boss every time we have a new merger, even though I've been here longer than all of them have been here. And so I'm out of here. And so I took my nice little corporate package and I took my little nameplate and my law degree and I was on the road, and it was time for me to start practicing. When I was a corporate attorney, the number one calls I got at my good corporate job, I used to call that my corporate 3 hots and a cot. I used to love that I knew when my check was going to deposit. I didn't have to worry about ordering the coffee or the paper or who watered the plants, because that was somebody else's responsibility. And now as a small business owner, I know all of that is on me. But I used to enjoy my 3 corporate hots and a cot. And people would call me, mostly from my church. And that's why I started off, guys, saying, I don't represent you, because you all probably know how church works. So every member of my church tells everybody they have an attorney, and it's me. Whether they've hired me or not, they say, I'm gonna get my attorney on that, because they know me and they say I represent them. So the funny thing about this is, whenever I got a call, it was not the things that we hear in the media that Black people call about. It wasn't because Junebug got arrested. It wasn't because LaQuisha needed her child support. It wasn't for any of that. It was because Big Mama passed away. Everybody lives in Big Mama's house. It's still a mortgage on Big Mama's house, and we don't all have to move. Edna talked about that. It's because the good pastor, who is famous, who everybody knows, who everybody thinks he has his affairs in order, and his wife lives in the parish house, and now the church is trying to put her out because her husband is not pastoring anymore. Or they're trying to bury that pastor. And as Edna said, as small business people, we need to make sure we have our financial affairs in order. Pastors used to be bivocational, which that means they had 2 jobs, and they had a job that had a regular salary when they didn't get the money from the church that they needed. A lot of them are going back to that, the younger pastors, but some of the pastors don't have insurance. You know, I'm a trustee at my church, so people seem to think that these pastors just get buckets and buckets of money, and that all pastors are flying around in jets and doing all that. And the average pastor is not doing that. And so they don't have money to bury them. And so they were calling me at my job, what do we do? So most of the calls that I received were about estate planning. And so I am big on education. When I was a corporate attorney, I was a trainer and an educator. And so I wanted to make sure I got this information to our community. That's why I don't charge for presentations. So that's just a little extra plug. If you have a family reunion, if you have a card party, if you have anything like that, if you meet with your women's group and you want me to come present, you can tell me, Julie, you got 15 minutes or you got 2 hours. However much time I have. Sometimes I'm in between people playing bid whist and eating their chicken, or having their beverage and getting a little education. So I know how to get in, give them a teaser, and get out. So, but I want to get this information to our community, similar to what Edna does, because we perish for a lack of knowledge. And so we need to know about these things. So I'm gonna tell you all a few stories. And so I was making a transition from law, and I wanted to make a transition where I could make a difference for my community. I am a proud Black woman from the South Side. And so I want to make sure that this information gets to our Black community. So, so that's why I chose estate planning when I left corporate law. Now, I'm gonna tell you all another funny story. I grew up watching the stories, not the soap operas, the stories. Some of y'all old enough, y'all know we used to call them the stories. I watched all of them. I watched Young and the Restless, General Hospital, One Life to Live, Ryan's Hope. I feel like I watched Dark Shadows, even though I'm not that old, but I heard my grandmother talking about Dark Shadows. Edge of Night, you name it, I watched it, right? Because those were exciting. And so, you know what? My assistants here tell me it's never a dull moment here. They don't need to watch TV. The things that happen in an estate planner's office are better than any script you will see on All My Children. I promise you they are. Every day here is a different plan of excitement. And so I have just a little list here of some scenarios that come up commonly in estate planning. Oh, I see somebody talking about General Hospital. Hey, and for you people who still watch the stories, they're developing a all black soap opera that's gonna come on CBS. I told y'all I still watch. So I still watch Young and the Restless when I can. So I have a few scenarios that I hope they bring to life, real life. These are real life combinations of scenarios of a day in the life. If I had to call this, one of the stories, a day in the life at JAJ LLC or PC. So the first one, I'm going to call this episode, but this is an emergency. That's what I'm going to call this episode. So I get a call. There's a husband. He's been married for 45 years to his beautiful wife. His wife has a stroke. She is in the hospital. He is calling me. I need a power of attorney because my wife is the person who takes care of every single bill at the house. I don't fool with those computers, and she's got every bill set up online. I don't have any passwords. I don't have any account numbers. I don't have anything. She has that information, and now I can't even pay the light bill because I don't have the information. And her name is on the accounts. So what do I do? Now, he had a healthcare power of attorney. So we're going to start off, and I'm going to echo something Edna said. Right before the pandemic, you're right, Geraldine. Right before the pandemic, we had information on demographics. And the largest growing portion of our population were what they call super agers, people over the age of 80. You know why? Because they're not out there jumping wheelies on motorcycles. They're not out there doing all that dangerous stuff. Most of my seniors want to drive. They want to come see me early so they can be back home by like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They're not engaging in some of the more risky activities. So if you make it to 80, without significant health challenges, you have a good chance of making it to 90 because you're not doing the crazy stuff that some of us young people do. And as my pastor says, they've cut their motor down. So a lot of them are not as stressed because you know what? They're not letting those grandkids or great grandkids or kids stress them out. They say, look, that's somebody else's business, right? And so they're surviving a lot longer. Most people experience some period of disability in their life where they need somebody to give them some assistance. So when people come in my office, they're usually talking about, oh, I want to make sure my kids don't have to go to court to get the house. Oh, I want to make sure this money is not taxed. Oh, I want to make sure my son doesn't run through all this money giving it to his girlfriends. Oh, I want to make sure this and that. And I want to make sure my daughter's not at the casino gambling all this money away. But I tell them, you have to start sooner than that. What's going to happen if you're not deceased yet and you're still alive and you need someone to keep your affairs in order? If you don't have anyone dealing with your affairs while you're still alive, there may not be anything to give anyone when you pass away. So you have to start dealing with disability first. Lots of people, like this gentleman who called my office, have dealt with what happens with their things when they pass away, and they have not considered what happens if I become disabled. When I first started doing estate planning, my friends told me I was crazy. They said, girl, we don't know anybody with any estates. We don't live in mansions and have stacks of money. And then when I used to do my presentations at church, I would tell people, do this, do this. This is your estate. If you don't have a dime, you have you. And the most important thing that you have that I'm concerned about is you. I want you to have some money. I want you to contact Edna, make sure you get your money together. But I want you to make sure that you are together. I want you to be sure that if something should happen to you, you can receive the best treatment and care possible. So how do I do that? I need a power of attorney. I need somebody who is able to speak for me medically if I cannot speak for myself. There's lots of myths that I have to dispel as an estate planning attorney. When I go in presentations, I tell people, if you got sick right now, who's the person who can make decisions for you? And you all can drop this in the chat. If you got sick right now, who can make decisions for you? People will say my spouse. Yep, somebody popped right in there. My spouse, my child, my adult child, my boo thing. They put all kind of stuff. Nobody. That's a trick question. Unless you have put something in a legally accepted form, nobody. So just telling your husband, just telling your daughter, my daughter comes to all my doctor's appointments with me, so my doctor knows he can talk to her. That is consent by the fact that you brought her there. But if you are unable to speak for yourself, your doctor cannot assume that you consent. That is illegal. So you have to have something in writing. So you must have a power of attorney. Power of attorney, a medical or healthcare power of attorney. Some states call it medical. In Illinois, we call it a healthcare power of attorney. It says, who can speak for me medically if I cannot speak for myself? Everyone must start with that. The law in the state of Illinois, and I'm only licensed in Illinois, but the law for estate planning is very similar in other states, is if you're over the age of 18, you speak for yourself in all matters. I know some of us wives like to think we speak for our husbands. Some of the husbands like to think they speak for their wives. Some of the adult parents who have adult children like to think we still speak for them. Over the age of 18, no one speaks for you other than yourself. So there's only two people who can give someone authority over you if you're over 18. One is you. And that's why you do estate planning. You say, and I always use myself as an example. I have a husband. We are coming up on celebrating 16 years of marriage. So my husband speaks for me medically first if I cannot speak for myself. Have a 29-year-old daughter. If my husband can't speak for me, she speaks for me. But that's because I've put that in writing. If I did not put it in writing, neither one of them have legal authority to make decisions for me. Now, if you go to a hospital, they usually give you a healthcare power of attorney. Because why? Because they don't want you getting sick on their table. And then now they don't know who's supposed to speak for you. And now they got to worry about somebody rushing to court or this, that, and the other. Let me go back. I said two people. One person is you through estate planning. If you don't do it, somebody in the chat said it's too late. A judge. So when that gentleman called me and said his wife, I said, well, what's going on with your wife? He said she's in a coma. She had a stroke. I can't do a power of attorney for a person who does not have legal capacity. It is too late. And he says, well, what do I have to do? You have the unfortunate task that you are going to have to go to court, to go to guardianship court, and a judge is going to have to appoint you to be able to speak for your wife for non-medical affairs. But it's my wife. But we've been married 45 years. But the check's got both our names on it that she pays the bill with. None of that matters. If her name is on the account, then it's her account. And if you want to access it, you're going to have to get authorization to do that. Some of the biggest headaches people get are from cell phone companies. Sorry if any of y'all work for the cell phone company, and the cable company. Because guess what? They don't want to cut those cell phone accounts off. They don't want to cut that cable off at your mother's house when she's now living at your house and you don't need cable at her house. They want that $300 bill to still keep coming in. And if you don't have the proper paperwork, you can't disconnect that account. You can't stop it. So in this gentleman's case, he and his wife had been married 45 years. So they felt like they didn't need any estate planning, right? Because everything is in both of our names. They were thinking like about what Edna was talking about. Well, of course, all the finances were in both of their names, but think about your household if you're married. There's only one name on the cable bill usually. There's only one name on the ComEd bill. There's only one name on the people's gas bill. In our house, my name is on most of them because my husband avoids a computer like the plague. So I pay everything online. But there's both of our bills, but they're all in my name. So if I got sick, he wouldn't be able to do anything with those accounts. So you still need to have some estate planning done, even if you think we have everything together. So some problems that I see. So hospitals, again, if you go in for a procedure, even if it's just a mammogram, colonoscopy, something routine, typically if you're going in and you're going through intake, they will ask you, do you have any advance directives? Or do you have, they'll ask, do you have a power of attorney? Do you have any of that? The law has empowered them to provide you one on the spot if you don't have one. If you're going in for major surgery, they may send the chaplain, they may send a social worker. It's usually not the medical professionals. They'll come in and say, do you have any advance directives? Do you have a power of attorney? And if you don't have one, they have authority to give you a healthcare document because that protects you, so that you can have continuity of care. So if something goes wrong, then you still have the opportunity to have somebody speak for you, and there's no lapse in time for that. And it protects the hospital because they can give you the best service they can, because even if you can't speak, they immediately have someone who's engaged to speak for you. They cannot give you anything for your finances. So guess what happened to this man who was married for 45 years? When his wife was going to her regular medical visits, they did do a medical power of attorney with the hospital. They thought that was fine because they didn't need anything for finances. But a property power of attorney, which is what we call it in Illinois, not a financial power of attorney. They call it that in some states. A property power of attorney is for everything that is not medical in nature. So it could be for going to the bank for you. That's what people typically think about. It could be calling your mortgage company. It can be talking to the people at the senior home you live. It could be talking to your landlord. But it could also be calling Blue Cross and Blue Shield to make sure that your care is being paid for. It can also be calling a homemaker to make sure that when you get transitioned home, that if you need someone to help you with things at home, that they can hire that person. It can also be calling Aetna's company to make sure that the long-term care is in place and what it covers and who, what kind of services are going to be provided for you. That is related to medical, but it is not directly medical treatment and care. Healthcare power of attorney is very specific. Medical treatment and care. Insurance is not medical treatment and care. Insurance is money. How do you pay for that medical treatment and care? So everyone needs a healthcare power of attorney who can make medical decisions, and a property power of attorney who can make all other decisions for you if you can't make them for yourself. Now, those powers of attorney, again, the healthcare power of attorney, people get it from the hospital. One thing I see is that people, for some reason, and I always make this example, no matter how smart you are, you don't think you can do brain surgery. You don't think you can operate on your heart. But because attorneys deal with words and they deal with documents, we have the extra challenge of, but I'm smart. I have a PhD. I'm an instructor. I is learned. I is trained. Why do I need an attorney? And you all can see I like to joke around. So when people call me and say, why do they need an attorney? I say, I don't know. I didn't call you, you called me. So obviously you must think you need an attorney. I didn't tell you needed an attorney. And then sometimes for fun, I run down just a couple of basic terms and say, well, if you know this and you know this and you know this, then you don't need me. Do you know those things? Oh no, I think I need an attorney. So a lot of times, some of the most horrible disasters I see are self-help documents. And that's why when I transition to this area of law, I make it my personal commitment. I will review your documents for you for free. It's not because I'm trying to drum up business, because as the young people say, I'm blessed and I'm booked and busy. So I have plenty of clients. So I'm not just going around trying to look for clients, but I don't want you to get sick, Jennifer, and think that your documents are on point because you did them. And then when you get sick and your spouse or your children pull them out, and they found out they're a disaster. And I can look at a document after 30 years of practice, I can look at a document and tell whether an attorney did it or whether somebody did it as self-help. There's just a few things that will tell me right away. Or an attorney who is a criminal defense attorney, who is your cousin, who would do it for you for free and doesn't know anything about estate planning. Or your cousin who practices law in Georgia and you live in Illinois and they're trying to do documents for you in Illinois because they're doing it on the free. Sometimes you get what you pay for. So just take that and do whatever you want to do with that. So the first mistake I see on a lot of healthcare powers of attorney when people fill them out themselves, you can only have one person serving at a time. You can have them sequentially, but here's the example. My husband and daughter, they agree about a lot of stuff. And the most important thing they agree about is me, because we are a blended family. So my husband doesn't have any biological children, but we went to high school together and we got reintroduced to each other when my daughter was 6 months. And so he has known her, she's 29, he's known her for 6 months. Since she's 6 months. He has been her stepdad for 16 years. So that is her dad. The one thing they agree the most about is me. Anybody want to guess what's the one thing they disagree the most about? Y'all go ahead and drop that in the chat. You know what it is. Me. So imagine them both being appointed as my healthcare power of attorney and the disaster that could possibly become if a doctor goes to both of them and say, well, what do you want to do about Julie? Meanwhile, I told y'all I like the stories, right? So I can imagine myself laying on the table, hearing everything that's going on, but not being able to speak, and the doctor not being able to give me medical attention in a timely fashion because these two are bickering. And I'm like, somebody shut up and doctor, pick one of them and get myself together, right? But the doctor can't do that unless I do that. So you can only have one person at a time. So my husband is first, my daughter is second. When I pick up forms that people download online, which God knows, if you would not download a prescription online because you don't know what the medicine is for, why are you downloading legal documents online? You don't know where those documents came from. Well, it looks like the first page looks like it's right. You don't know the details of what's in that document, so you don't know if it's appropriate for you or not. So people fill out the documents and they put both my daughters, my husband and my daughter. You've already basically invalidated that healthcare power of attorney. Because the doctor, what if they don't agree? Now the doctor is sitting there and nobody has authority over anything because both of them have equal authority. So that's just one of those things that I see with that. If you don't have a healthcare power of attorney, there's a limited situation under the Illinois Medical Surrogate Act. That's probably one of the only pieces of legislation I'm going to give you that will allow someone to speak for you medically, but that's only to keep you alive. Like if it's life-threatening, like if they don't get you right, then you're going to pass away. But once you get stabilized, they're going to tell you, call an attorney and march you right down to probate court to get a guardianship. They always make the attorney deliver the bad news. They'll come in and ask you, do you have a healthcare power of attorney? And you might say, yeah, I think I got one that's at home. And they say, okay. And then they'll buy that maybe once or twice. And then after the third time, they'll say, look, if you don't produce it, we suggest you call an attorney because we can't allow you to continue in the way that you're continuing. So if the person is fatal, then they may let you speak just limited to get the person stabilized. Or if the person is already going to pass away and they need somebody to make a decision about transitioning them. But that's it for Medical Surrogate Act. So his wife, who had the stroke, who's in a coma, she's stabilized. So at the hospital, if he didn't have a healthcare power of attorney, he wouldn't have been able to make any decisions. And this is very important. This is one of the big areas of law that people need to deal with. And everybody thinks this is an emergency, right? I can tell you, guardianship, rarely any of them are emergencies because they're all emergencies, right? If somebody doesn't have somebody to speak for them medically, it's an emergency. If somebody doesn't have anybody to take care of their financial affairs, it's an emergency. So everybody who goes to guardianship court is an emergency. So when my clients call me and say, but it's an emergency, I tell them the judge is not going to buy that. And I say, if you want to press it, I'll ask. And then when you see the judge deny my motion and you make me look a little crazy in court, I'm fine because I've been an attorney for 30 years and I know what I know. But I don't want you to think I'm crazy. I'm telling you it's not going to fly. Every time I've ever asked for an emergency motion for guardianship, it has been denied because they're all emergencies. So you're going to wait the 6 months or 3 months or 4 months or however long it takes because everybody else who is in that court is an emergency as well. And of course, you could imagine the pandemic has made that situation worse. So next thing, we're going to move on. So, but this is an emergency. The long story short is none of them are an emergency because they're all emergencies. Next thing, healthcare. So you need a healthcare power of attorney. You need a property power of attorney. 2 other documents that I throw in that some other estate planning attorneys do not do. I told you I train attorneys. So when they come to me, they say, oh, I'm going to start using that. First one is a HIPAA release. A HIPAA release doesn't have anything to do with who makes decision. It's about who has access to information. Told you all I love the dramatic. I love the stories. People come rushing in the hospital. What's going on with Big Mama? I need to know what's going on right now. And the family is dysfunctional and they can't get information from their siblings or whatever, and they want to talk to the doctor. Well, guess what? You don't have any authority to talk to the doctor because there's nothing on Big Mama's documents that say we can talk to you. We don't even know who you are. So a HIPAA release says you can put names of people on this document that if they present themselves to the hospital or if they call, they can get information. So most of the time people put their siblings on there. They may put their parents on there if they're married. They may put a best friend on there. I always recommend a best friend, a sorority sister, a fraternity brother, because if you are ill, your immediate family is going to be so locked in with the doctors, they don't have time to give updates to everybody who loves you and cares about you. So you have your best friend or your sorority sister, your fraternity brother, your church member who is responsible for telling people how Geraldine is doing. Because I know it's a secret. I'm not going to tell anybody that's not on this call, but everybody on this call is the most important person to their family and friends. Y'all know, y'all didn't say it. Y'all being modest. I'm saying it. I know that Rosalind is the most important person. I know that Jennifer is, Edna is, June is. And so people want to know when something happens to you. And that should not be the obligation of your husband, of your significant other, of your children to update people. They're already listening to all of this information from doctors. They're trying to process it. They're trying to deal with what's going on. And then they got to tell all the people at the church what's going on with you. Then every soror that you ever met, your sorors from your home chapter, from your chapter of initiation, sorors you met at the regional conference that you're friends with on Facebook, people from, again, your church group or whatever, everybody wants to know what's going on with you. And they're not trying to be disrespectful or insensitive to your family, but they are, because they think they're the only person that asks. And my mother-in-law recently passed. She lived with us. That she was my mother in love. My husband is an only child, so I was her daughter for all intents and purposes. And my husband was her full-time caretaker for the last couple of years. And she passed at our house on hospice on Mother's Day 2 years ago. I cannot tell you the toll it took on my husband having to report to everybody how his mother was doing. Every time I didn't even ask him a question. I'm his wife and I live in the house with him, and she was my mom too. I couldn't bear to ask not one more question when everybody was calling him and everybody was just bombarding him with questions about how his mother was doing. And I saw the toll that it was taking on him. Let somebody else do that. Put a good friend on a HIPAA release and they could just tell people, Julie, fine. And put somebody on there who knows what information to share and how much to divulge. And they could just say, Julie's doing well. We're praying for, this, that, and the other, but put somebody else on the HIPAA. Last document everybody needs for medical or disability is a living will. Living will doesn't have anything to do with your stuff. It has something to do with you. It differs from a DNR. DNR is a do not resuscitate order. That is a medical order that comes from a doctor, just like your order for your colonoscopy or your order for your blood pressure medicine. And they have to talk to you about whether or not you will get the defibrillator used on you, or whether you will have a feeding tube, or whether you want to be on a breathing apparatus. The doctors have to talk to you about that to make sure you're clear, and they put that in your records. A living will says, if what I have is incurable, irreversible, and death is imminent, to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, do I want to stay on this life support until it stops working? And eventually it will stop working. Or do I want you to treat my pain and suffering and let me pass away naturally? Edna talked about the cost of long-term care. Just imagine people being on life support for all that time. Right before the pandemic, I had a 32-year-old niece who had a massive stroke. She worked for CTA. She was at the Lake Station. Some people, the world is so small. There are people who told me they were there getting off work when my niece was being rushed to Northwestern Hospital. She was in a coma from January, right before the pandemic, until the Thanksgiving of the pandemic. So she was in a coma for 10 months. So they knew immediately. I mean, she got rushed to Northwestern. I mean, if you know anything about Chicago and you know about the distance between the Lake Street Station and Northwestern Hospital, she couldn't have got to a hospital quicker. She couldn't have got to a better hospital, but it was already over for her. Her husband stayed with her until, for the pandemic, they made him leave the hospital. He did not leave her bedside. I got him to leave once. So I came to the hospital. And the doctors were so surprised that he weren't there. And they said, who are you? And I said, I'm the aunt. They said, well, can we talk to you? Can you talk to the family? You must have some sort of sway with them, because he hasn't left her bedside. And I said, well, what do you need? They said, we've told the family that she's not going to recover, but we can't get anybody to make a decision. Can you help with that? Here's the problem. She had a daughter who was in elementary school who had just died unexpectedly less than a year before that. My brother, who was her father, could not bear to disconnect his daughter after he just lost his granddaughter. Neither could her stepmom, neither could her mom, neither could her stepfather, and certainly not her husband. There was no way they were going to do that. Emotionally, they just could not handle doing that so soon after losing a child. So this is why it's important for you to say what you want to have do. That when as soon I already had a living will, but I went and my husband and daughter make jokes again, me and the soap operas, right? The stories. My husband said, we know your baby would never disconnect you. She'll have you in that hospital forever. Her and the dog, because I don't have any grandchildren, but I got a grand doggy and she's as spoiled as ever. She'll be in the hospital with the dog. They'll be in the bed with you, just talking to you, sitting there. As long as you could just sit there with them, they wouldn't care. And then my daughter picks on my husband, say, you know, daddy would never disconnect you. He'd just have you sitting there. He'd just be looking at you. He said he liked that anyway. He liked when you just sleeping or sitting there because you're just cute and you're not saying nothing sassy and you're not bossing him around and you just sitting there. So he'd never disconnect you. That's the best he can have. He can have you right there, but you can't say anything and you can't do anything. So I teased him and I said, I'm glad neither one of you all is in a rush to disconnect me. I'm glad both of you all want to keep me around here. But guess what? Y'all drive me crazy. And if I'm not here to direct y'all here and there and tell y'all what to do, I don't know that I'm not going to understand in my mind that y'all doing something crazy and I can't stop it. That might be driving me crazy. Just let me go to glory. That's why I'm living my life so that when this is all over, I hope I have a home on high. Don't y'all try to keep me here because y'all want me here because it makes you all feel better. I want you to let me go because that's not the type of life that I want to live. So I have let them know that, and I have a living will in place. I have clients that struggle with that. You all may be seasoned enough to remember the Terry Schiavo case. Terry Schiavo was a huge case. That woman went into a coma. Her husband said, my wife would never want to be on life support. Her parents jumped in and said, that's not true. He just want to get rid of our daughter. And they went and fought in court. That case was in court 7 years, back and forth, medical bills. It went up to all the appellate courts. There was times where they were literally about to disconnect her and they came in with an emergency order and said, do not do it. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Finally, after 7 years, her husband prevailed. How her parents found out she died is they got a fax to their attorney from her attorney, from the husband's attorney. It said, your daughter has been disconnected. They didn't even know where she was buried at that point. Because you can imagine the family ties that were severed over 7 years of fighting in court. And I don't believe either one of them was malicious. They were doing what they felt was best for the person they loved. But you know why they had to do that? Because Terry didn't tell them what she wanted to have happen. She didn't put it in writing. So you don't want that to be your family. If anything, you want your husband, who is supposed, or your significant other who's supposed to love you so much, and your parents who also love you so much, to lean on each other and to support each other during your transition instead of fighting in court and going back and forth. You know they're not going to sit there. If they ever mended their fences, it probably took forever. And I would think that they probably never did. My other degree is in psychology. So why do I do estate planning? Because when I was in law school, I had the reputation of being a touchy-feely lawyer. They said, Julie's never going to be rich because she worried about everybody's feelings, making sure everybody's okay, making sure everybody's good. Well, somebody needs to do it, right? And I don't want you putting that stress on your family, making them have to make that decision for you. Because I told you under the Medical Surrogate Act, they could make the decision. But why would you want to leave that to them? They're already struggling with you making your transition. I don't have any tissue in this office, or I didn't because I stayed making jokes. And sometimes when people die, people need to be freed up to not have judgment, because people see you laughing. Oh, girl, her husband just died last week and she laughing. What's she doing laughing? She ain't even sad that he dead. So when people cross my threshold, I say, this is a judgment-free zone. You can cry if you want to cry. You can laugh if you want to laugh. I know I have loved ones and I love humor, so I want them to laugh after I'm gone. And you can do that here. The only time people cry in my office is when they talk about having to make the decision about life support. I don't know if I let my mother fight long enough. Maybe I gave up on her. I don't know if I made my dad suffer too long. Maybe I should have made a decision. Do you want your family living with those kind of decisions? That's terrible for them. Every time they think about you, they're thinking about that instead of thinking about, the time at the barbecue and all this other stuff. That's what they're thinking about. And so you don't want that to happen. So you want to make the decision. And the last thing I'll say about that is we're too dysfunctional. We're worse than any other stories. There's people with all kind of restraining orders that can't come to the hospital at the same time when the other person is in there. I got a restraining order against my brother. He can't come see mama, all this other stuff. Do you think the hospital is going to trust y'all to make a decision about end of life care when they know somebody got a restraining order? What if he comes in here and says something different? And now we've made the decision, and now we're going to get sued by the one that got the restraining order because we made a decision based on what you told us. So a lot of times hospitals are even staying away from that. And if you don't have paperwork, they say, well, they just going to stay there until they make their transition, because if you can't show that we can disconnect them, then we're not going to disconnect them. So difference between property power of attorney and guardianship. The first one I told you is powers of attorney. You do those yourself. You say in advance that this is what you want to have happen. And powers of attorney are revocable at any time. You have to do them when you have capacity. That doesn't mean you have to be able to say the alphabet backwards on one foot or name the presidents in reverse. Just, my name is Julie. I got a husband. I got a daughter. I got some stuff. The threshold for estate planning is lower than most legal things because the law wants you to do estate planning. You may not remember all your kids' names exactly. My mother has 4 kids. I'm the only girl. I can't tell you how many times I've been called my brothers. And I'm the oldest. And my mother don't have dementia. Nothing wrong with it. She's 72. James, you know who I'm talking to. So you might, as an attorney, think she shouldn't be doing any estate planning. So it's a very low threshold to do estate planning. That helps because sometimes I have to do estate planning because a doctor has told the family, you need to see an attorney before it gets to be too late. Your father has early onset, or your father is starting to show signs of dementia. You need to get him into an attorney. I am my subspecialty is elder law. So I've taken extra training in knowing how to certify whether a senior has capacity or not. My records are very clear. So I write this senior, I talk to them about all kinds of stuff so that I can write in my records that I had full conversations with them. I didn't just take names from them. So I have a clear understanding that they know what they're doing and that they understand what's going on. So that means they can change it. So my transition I'm making to my second story, I like to call this Granddaddy's Caddy, as in Cadillac, or Grandmama's got a new name and apparently it's ATM. So you all could already pretty much tell where I'm going with that one. So it's very unique, the different things that people do when they start experiencing dementia. The men always go out and buy a car. I don't know why. Some of them can barely walk. And next thing you know, they at the car dealership, they at Schaumburg, Cadillac. And next thing you know, they got the biggest, fanciest Cadillac truck you ever seen. And you like, they can barely walk. Why do they have a Cadillac truck? Some reason they love Cadillacs. I love Cadillacs too, so I'm not mad at them. The men usually go get a car. And they make it through the process because lots of people with dementia present well. If you didn't know that everything they're talking about is from 2012 and not 2024, you would think they were on point. And the more education they have, the better they tend to present. So I have a lot of problems with doctors, lawyers, professors. They present very well. You would not think they have dementia. They certainly can go buy a car. They're not sitting on the couch rocking or cutting out paper dolls or they're going out in the street doing things like buying Cadillacs. And then you come home and your daddy you say, whose new Cadillac is parked in front of our house? Why is that Cadillac in the driveway? And your daddy got the keys because he done went to the Cadillac dealer and bought a Cadillac. And you like, I got to take this car back. And this is a real story. It's happened to me 3 times with daddies buying cars. And 2 of those 3 were Cadillacs and they were trucks. One of the men was an amputee. So you can imagine it's difficult getting up in those. Why does he have a Cadillac truck? But anyway, so his daughter, the last guy, his daughter threatened the car dealer. She drove the car back. You need to take that car back. I'm going to sue you all. I'm going to call my attorney. You all can put in the chat. Did they care? When she told him she was going to tell it, I'm his power of attorney. She started waving the power of attorney around and they did not care. Why did they not care? Because the power of attorney is only good if the person doesn't have capacity to say anything, like they have a stroke, they're in a coma, something like that, or if they don't revoke it. If he did something on his own to go get a car, she can't overturn it because that was his wish to get the car. So we have situations like that with the men. With the women, what happens is they usually go to the bank and their children are monitoring their accounts online or they're checking, and they say, Mama then took out $500 every day. Where's the money? And they ask Mama, she doesn't know. The money's not around the house. We don't know who's getting the money. Is she going to the bank with someone? What is going on? And the money is just disappearing. Well, because somebody's coming over there taking Mama to lunch, or they're taking her to the mall, or they just want to come visit Auntie. And by the way, they've seen the bank statement on there, so they know Auntie banks at Chase. So they roll her by Chase on their way to taking her to lunch, if she even makes it to lunch. And if she makes it, you know, Geraldine, she paid for lunch. They didn't pay for it because they took her to lunch with her money, probably. And so the family finds out about the money missing, and then they go to the bank and they take the power of attorney to the bank and they say, Tamara, I want you to investigate this, or I don't want you letting anybody get any more money out of my mother's account. I'm the only one who can get money out of her account. And here's the power of attorney to say, to prove it. Guess what? The bank freezes the account. Because powers of attorney are not meant to take mom's authority away as long as she is still saying that she has authority to do things. So now they know it's something wrong with the account, right? Because they do agree with you that money's going out of the account or whatever, and they don't want it to all be gone, but they can't do what you're asking them to do. So now Mama can't get the money out of the account, neither can you. So I get those calls all the time saying, I need to take this Cadillac back. What is going on? The car dealers won't take it back. Or I need to stop my mom from giving her money away. Well, now it has escalated past the power of attorney, and now you do need a guardianship. There are times where you actually do have to go to court and get a court order and say, my dad does not know he needs help, but here's this doctor statement that said he has dementia. I need you to make sure that I can take care of him even over his objections. My mother, here's her medical statement. She is mostly dementia, but sometimes it's mental illness. I have 2 clients that are women that have a schizophrenia. My sister has schizophrenia. She doesn't know that she needs help, but I have to be able to protect her. So in order to get a guardianship, that's part of probate court. You have to have a physician's report to say why you have to go over this person's wishes. It trumps a power of attorney. And it doesn't matter if mama's kicking and screaming. It doesn't matter how much dad is complaining. If you have a guardianship in place and the person is still mobile, they still going to the bank, first of all, the first thing you should do when you get it is go take it to the bank so they can put it on the account. So they know that even if Miss Smith comes in there, they can be as gentle as they can. They can say, Miss Smith, I'm sorry, something going on with your account. You probably need to talk to your daughter. You need to talk to your son. We can't give you access to the account. They know how to say what they need to say, but you need to take it to the bank right away. Because if the bank is not aware of it and they give her the money, don't go complaining to them about her having the money because you should have gave them the document. With regard to the car, the one good thing about a guardianship is if somebody does something they weren't supposed to do, you can undo it. So the person with the car, if dad had a guardianship and he wasn't supposed to get the car, you can take the guardianship order over to the Cadillac people and explain to them. Don't drive it all over town, y'all, and then try to take it back. You need to take it back soon. You need to take it back within a few days of finding out. And you take them the guardianship documents and say, I'm sorry, you know, my dad, I know he came in here, did whatever, but he's not supposed to do that. And here's the court order that says I make all decisions for him. You are right. Guardianship is hard and it's real. It's hard when your husband has been your helpmeet and you all have worked together, but now you have to exert authority over them. It's difficult when your parent, you still see your dad as your hero in your eyes and your mom as someone you look up to. And now you have to take their car keys and you have to make sure they're not using their own money and they're not driving around and they're not doing things. These are difficult decisions. I have had so many situations of having to take keys from people, but look at it like this. Would you rather take the key from them or would you rather them kill themselves or others because you didn't take the key? So it's tough decisions. This is real life. It's hard. but at least you want to have the proper paperwork that allows you to do that. The next dilemma, we're going to move to something lighter. So powers of attorney, you need a healthcare power of attorney, a property power of attorney, a living will, and a HIPAA release. If you have those documents, you have everything you need to make decisions for your loved one, whether they're short-term disabled, long-term disabled, temporary or permanent, as long as they don't revoke them. If they revoke them, then you're going to have to go to guardianship court. If you got these people who are very, flighty, and one day you can go to the doctor, the next day the doctor can't tell you anything. You can't tell them what to do with their money, this, that, and the other. As long as they have a medical reason why you need to help, then you can. I'm going to circle back to that. I see some seasoned people in here. I guess I'm firmly middle-aged. I'm 55. I don't know if that's middle age, because that would mean I have to live to 110, but we're going to claim it. So a lot of people my age, which we call us the sandwich generation, right? We're helping our parents and we're still helping them 29, 30-year-olds who need assistance. They come in and they say, I need a guardianship for my mama because she giving my sister all this money. I need a guardianship for my daddy because he bought my brother a car. Your parents still have a decision-making authority. And the first thing I asked them, I said, well, do they have dementia? Do they have mental illness? But they give it, well, they have a right to still make decisions. And I have to tell that to people my age all the time. Just because your parents make a decision you don't like, they are full-grown adults and they have a right to make those decisions as long as they're aware that that's the decision they're making. Guess what? Your siblings sweet-talking your parents is not elder abuse. They do not have a lack of faculties. My husband might say I have dementia the way I let my daughter get away with stuff. I know exactly what I'm doing. That's part of life. That's what, that's what kids do to their parents. Ma, I need this. Dad, I need this. That is not, just because you don't like your mother giving money to your siblings, that does not mean you can be her guardian. That's her money. She can give it all away if she wants to. Your daddy got a new little girlfriend, a young girl. What else do you think a 30-some-year-old girl want with your 80-year-old daddy but his money? But if your daddy is giving her that money willingly for her companionship, you might like it. I mean, you might not like it, but that is your daddy's money I know that's your inheritance. I know every time you see her with a new bag or a new outfit, you upset because your inheritance is walking around on this. One of my attorney friends called somebody a trollop today. I love that. I love turning phrases. Yeah, that trollop got your money. She walking around with your inheritance. Well, but that's not something the law can stop. As long as your daddy is giving it to her willingly. Now, the women, we usually don't give our money away. I'm not picking on the brothers because I'm a daddy's girl. I had a dad, a stepdad. I have 3 brothers. But women, we are usually more real about why somebody young want to be with us. It couldn't be because of nothing except they want our money. But the men, their ego is invested in it. So they're giving the money away. But no, she want me. I'm cool. I know I'm 80, but I'm a cool 80-year-old. Whatever the situation is, you cannot get guardianship just because you want it, just because you don't agree with their decision-making. Same thing with powers of attorney. It is not because you don't agree with what your parents are doing. It's either because they allow you to do it, the person allows you to do it, or they need you to intervene for a medical reason, not just because you don't like what they're doing. So now we're going to transition to when people are passing away, what happens? Oh, Lord, you thought it was bad when they still alive. Last thing I will say about these powers of attorney, because I do all day seminars and you all can see I can talk about it all day. What I say about a power of attorney, and this is just Julie talking, Julie with the psychology degree and a law degree. When you pick somebody to be your power of attorney, look at it like this. You are still alive. This is not a time to be sensitive to people's feelings. Well, she the oldest. Her feelings going to be hurt if I don't pick her. Well, he's the boy, so I think I should pick him. Well, I don't really want him, but he lived down the street and my other son live in Atlanta. You pick who you think is going to take care of your affairs properly, because God forbid you recover from a stroke. They ain't paid none of your bills. Your life is in a shambles. They getting foreclosure notes or eviction notices or bills overdue. You recover from a stroke and have a heart attack because now all your affairs are in disarray. You pick the person that you trust to say, if I cannot intervene, I trust that this person is going to take such good care of my affairs that when I come back, I will be able to focus on my recovery and not have to focus on the disaster they created of my life. That's as simple as that. If you can't trust them to do that, then they shouldn't be on your powers of attorney. So when people hem and haw with me, you all can tell I'm silly. I'm even sillier when I'm one-on-one with my clients. What are you hemming and hawing for? Well, I guess I'm gonna pick my son. Do you think that's a rousing endorsement for an attorney? "Oh, well, I guess I'm gonna pick my son." No, you won't. Not on my watch. If you're doing this, "Oh, I guess I'm gonna pick him." Then that means we need to look for somebody else. Because what you're not gonna have is the rest of your family coming in here trying to kill me because they say, "How you let her son be over her money?" I know she had to tell you he got a drinking problem and you let her put him on there. I take these documents personal for my community. I am not, and not to pick on them, I'm not one of these big money, big, LaSalle Street attorneys who charging you thousands of dollars and you tell them what to do and they just fill in some blanks and do whatever you say. My daughter always laughs because my favorite phrase is, "I'm not your mama, but I'm somebody's mama." And you know how Black women is. We will mama anybody. And so sometimes I have to mama my senior clients. You just told me that your son don't even pay his rent. He got to come to you for money. Now you want him to be your property power of attorney. Does that sound like that makes sense? You just told me you can't never get your daughter on the phone and she lived down the street from you. Well, I wanted my daughter to bring you to the appointment. I'm glad you make home visits, Attorney Julie, because my daughter just wouldn't bring me over there. And you want her to be your healthcare power of attorney. So when the doctor calls and she's not going to answer, why are you doing these things? So when people say, and I'm skipping around a little bit, but one of my things I tell people, I'm giving you this for free, no charge, tips on hiring an attorney. Some of my young people, they don't really need this kind of advice. They don't care. They just want to get this done quick. They want to put everything online, send it to you. They don't want your advice. Then I might not be the type of attorney for them. Some people think they know everything. They not an attorney. They not an estate planning attorney, but they got a many letters behind their name. They got all kinds of degrees, and they think they're going to tell me how to attorney for them. You could probably determine I'm not going to be the attorney for them because you're not going to tell me how to attorney for you because you come to me because I'm an expert. So one of the things I say about hiring an attorney, check the vibe, y'all. And what I mean by that is I do a free introductory or consultation with all my with all my clients. If I'm not everybody's cup of tea. That's another one of my phrases I say. I'm not your cup. I might not be your cup of tea. That's all right because I don't like tea. I like tequila. So I might not be your cup of tequila. That's fine. Then you might say that girl, that attorney, she too silly. I don't take her serious, or she too loud, or she too bossy. Find the person that you can connect with because estate planning is highly personal. You have to have a connection with them. You have to be able to share with them that your son got a gambling problem. You have to be able to share with them that your daughter uses drugs occasionally. You have to be able to share those things with them because when you are gone and they're managing your affairs or someone needs to help them with their affairs and you're not here, if they don't have that information, how are they going to effectively manage your estate? I need to know all of it. My joke I tell clients, I said, look, when you go to your doctor, if something is itching, burning, oozing, that all sounds real embarrassing, right? And you don't necessarily want to tell them. How are they going to treat it if they don't know? So you can't be fake with your doctor. You have to tell your doctor. That's why they have confidentiality. That's why your attorney has confidentiality. I can see your son. I can see your son and know you on crack and not tell him. And he would never know. And I'm going to talk to him just like anybody else. I'm going to go the extra mile to make him think that I really think he is competent when I know that he has a serious drug problem and not on my watch. He would never be over your things. But I have to know. If I don't know, how am I going to help? And you acquire this wealth that Edna or one of a colleague like her helps you acquire, and then you put your crackhead son over it and all the money is gone. You have a home, as Edna talked. My clients have some nice homes. I be having home envy because now I'm addicted to HGTV. And so I go to some of my clients' homes and I'm like, ooh, this is nice. This is real nice. I'm gonna take some of these ideas home. You have this nice house, you leave it to your daughter. Her husband got her under his thumb. He tell her everything to do. Now she done sold the house that you wanted her to keep or that you wanted the family to have, and it's gone because you didn't tell me that her husband got her under her thumb. Under his thumb. Those are things that as an attorney, I feel like I need to know. You find the person who fits with you. Attorneys that are good are booked and busy. I hate to tell y'all this. So they put my stuff in the chat. I'm going to tell it to you again. I have a scheduling clerk. It was funny. I was at a social event and somebody walked up to me and said, girl, I need to get in your office. I said, you need to talk to my scheduling clerk. I'm not being grand. If you tell me it's probably not going to make it to my calendar, I might be double, triple booked. I'm bad with the calendar. You have to know your strengths. And one of my clients was there because most places I go, my clients are there. And she said, girl, you better listen to Julie. I'm her client. You better talk to her scheduling clerk because if she puts you on the calendar, you might not make it there. And it's going to take you a month to get in to see her, but it's going to be worth it because she's not going to rush. She's going to let your mama tell all the stories she want to tell. She's going to listen to everything and you're going to be trying to rush her. Mama, she don't need to hear all that. That's not important. She need it. And I'm going to say, Mama, you talk if you want to talk. I don't charge by the hour. I don't even have a clock in my office. So you come in and you talk when you want to talk. I don't rush my clients. I schedule my clients 2 hours apart. Now, if you take more than 2 hours, my assistant's going to be mad, but I'm not going to be mad. So, you know, you may have to wait if you get a good attorney because people, thank God, I'm excited. It's not 12 years doing this now. It's crazy. It's 14 years doing this. I'm excited that people are starting to do more estate planning. And so it is busy. My assistant put somebody on the calendar for June and I start to run away. I start to just shut my office and run away. I said, you can't be scheduled for June and it's April. I quit, but I'm not going to quit because I love y'all. So it's worth the wait. Also, there's levels to this. Anybody, if we got some young people on there, they know it's a song called There's Levels to This. And I ain't gonna say what the word is, you know, it's a word that there's levels to it. All attorneys are not created equal. No, it could be the world-renowned cardiologist. You're not gonna have them do brain surgery on you because they know the heart. They don't know the brain. I'm so tired of people coming to me saying, I said, who does this? I try not to embarrass people, but after we get to be family, I might embarrass you. Who did these documents? They sheepish. They looking down. They don't want to tell me. Well, my son-in-law did it. Is he an attorney? No, he's a CPA, but stop it. Who did these documents? My cousin. Are they an attorney? Well, yeah, he a criminal defense attorney in Virginia. Please stop it. Please get people who are walking in their field of expertise. If nothing else, get that. Second thing, and I know I don't need to tell y'all good people here who are on this call that all that glitters is not gold. And I ain't hating on nobody because I told y'all I got plenty of work. Don't worry about getting the attorney that's got the billboard and don't have time for you and you dealing with a legal clerk the whole time and you never even talk to them. Then I got to fix the work because the clerk did it and then you bring it to my office and it's a wreck. Don't worry necessarily about the attorney that's on the radio or the attorney that's on TV. Some of those are excellent attorneys. I'm not denigrating any of them. The world is small and the world is even smaller with estate planning attorneys and it's even smaller with Black estate planning attorneys. Then it gets even smaller with Black women estate planning attorneys. So most of us know each other, but some of them I know the quality of their work. Some of them we get together and we have to have our attorney cocktail hour about them because I'm tired of seeing their $5,000 estates that I have to fix. And now the client doesn't really have any money to fix it. And now because I love the people, then I got to fix it for $250 when you gave them $5,000 and what they gave you was trash. So investigate, ask questions. When people tell me they did their research, I always tease them. Your research don't offend me because I have a law degree and I get trained at least once a quarter. So I keep my tools sharp because it's important for me to give my clients and the community the best information possible. So I'll keep my tools sharp. So you're not offending me because you tell me something you saw on Google. So when you say you did your research, I always teach you and say you went to Google. But that's better than nothing. And if you're interviewing an attorney, then they need to be able to answer your questions and want to answer your questions and want to answer in a way that you understand. Most people know attorneys are smart. You can't be an attorney if you don't have some level of intelligence. So I'm not trying to prove to you how smart I am. Either you believe that or you don't believe it. What I'm trying to show you is how much I care about you and how much I want to make sure your estate plan is right. Now how smart I am. So if I got to use a bunch of $1,000 words with you and you don't understand what the heck I'm talking about, if that's the kind of attorney you want, I'm not that attorney because I'm going to make it plain for you. So think about that when you're looking for attorneys. So now we talk about what happens when people pass away. Lord, what doesn't happen? So my first one is called family in them. And I said it right, ebonically correct, in them, family in them, or ain't nothing free. So a big thing that I told you my subspecialty is elder law. A lot of my colleagues who do estate planning, send their clients to me because they say, I'm not doing all that. You need to talk to Julie. or I don't know anything about these subspecialty things for seniors, I'm sending you to Julie, because they want to deal with the millennials and have everything online. My clients don't type anything for themselves. Barely they fill out an intake form. And I have assistants that do that. I talk to you, I write, I do everything. People who want to still be on the phone, I do conference calls, I still do home visits to seniors. I am still that kind of attorney, and everybody's not going to do it. Lots of people have reverse mortgages. Lots of the seniors have reverse mortgages. I used to hate reverse mortgages. I used to just be, oh my God. My first volunteer job was working with seniors. I went to law school in Atlanta, working with seniors, and I said, oh, they taking them seniors' money with those reverse mortgages. Reverse mortgages have a place. If I'm giving my kids what I want them to have already, or they're living their lives, I paid for college for them, their grandkids, everything else, I want to live my best life. Maybe I don't want to go to no senior home. Maybe I want to retrofit this house so it's got a ramp, or so it's more comfortable, or so that they can do the shower and the bathroom again so it's more accessible to me. Maybe I want to stay in my own house, and maybe I want to draw the equity out of this house to allow me to live in my house for longer. Maybe I want to draw the equity down so I can get some assistance in my house, so I can delay going to a senior home for as long as I can, because I've taken the equity out of my house to use it for me. This is going to be unpopular. Some of y'all I see in the chat telling me you're going to bring your parents to me. Hopefully this won't change your mind. I tell the people, the best estate plan you have, use your stuff. Your estate plan is use your stuff. Now, yes, if you can leave something, please use Edna. I tell people, if you want to leave legacies for your children and grandchildren, by all means, make sure you have the financial vehicles to do that. But your first priority, seniors or non-seniors, should be you. Especially if you put people through college, paid for first cars, second cars, paid for weddings, did all those things. So you need to spend your funds on you. And so if you need a reverse mortgage because you don't want to ask your kids for money, right? Because they got kids in college and you don't want to have to ask them to help you. You don't want to have to ask them to help you to help fix your house up. You don't want to have to ask them to help you to pay for some care, because they still younger, they still got their own financial challenges. But I got this house and it's paid for, and they don't want to live in this house when I pass away because they got their own homes. So I can use the equity of this home. So there is a place for reverse mortgages. You know where it's not a place for a reverse mortgage? When family and them all live in the house. Because a reverse mortgage needs to be paid back when you pass away if they're going to keep the home. So now you've drawn the equity out the home. Typically, if they are living with you, that might mean they don't have any money, because you would think they would be saving it if they're living with you, because they probably not paying you anything. So they should have plenty of money. But chances are they don't. And now they have a reverse mortgage and you pass away and it's got to be paid back. Now they calling me trying to figure out how they keep the house. You know how you keep the house? You pay that reverse mortgage back. It's not like a regular mortgage. You can't just pay an installment on it. It's due in full when the person passes away. It's a specific purpose loan that was created with specific legislation. You cannot keep a house with a reverse mortgage unless you pay that reverse mortgage off. Really, not to get too much in the details, but you have to pay a percentage of the appraised value. So, and reverse mortgages are set up. I've sat with seniors through reverse mortgage training, not even let the people know I'm an attorney. I'm just a family friend, because I don't want you finessing them differently than you would if I was their daughter or their granddaughter. And I hear the presentation. Reverse mortgage money is typically staged. You can't take it all at once. So you take a large chunk at the beginning, you can, and then you can take it over years. Why is that? Because they expect you to die before you get all the money. I'm just gonna be real. They don't make money if they give you all the money that you could possibly borrow from them. That's why there's an age requirement on reverse mortgage. I can't get a reverse mortgage at 55 years. It'll be like Edna said, they're like, she gonna live out this money. So there's rules around it, but essentially, I'm just telling you, I'm just putting a footnote here because I get a lot of calls about this. Talk to your seniors. Ask them, do they have a reverse mortgage? If they're going to talk about it, have the conversation. Just like Edna said about investments and insurance and all of this. I can't stress it enough for our community. Just have the conversation. I've gone to people's Thanksgiving dinners, or when people come on Wednesday, just talk to the family for a few minutes. I've gone to cookouts that people have, card parties, girls who have just their little girls' night out parties, just to drop a few nuggets and tell people these are some things that you just need to start the discussion about. I have not talked about a whole lot of substantive law here. Why? Because I just want to impress upon you how important this is, and you need to talk to an attorney for yourself. And since I'm going to talk to you for free anyway, you might as well call me and talk to me, even if you're not going to use me. But seriously, talk to your seniors about these things if you are like my age, sandwich generation. If you are seasoned people here, talk to your children about it. Talk to your grandchildren about it. Talk to your spouses about it. Guess what? I'm an estate planning attorney, have been one for 14 years. I do not like hearing my mama talk about this stuff. I do not. I do not. I'm like, and she said, you do this every way for everybody else. Everybody else ain't my mama. I don't want to hear about my mama getting sick and not being able to take care of her affairs. I don't want to think about my mom passing away. My father passed away. My stepfather passed away. My mother is my last living parent. I don't have any grandparents alive. I don't want to think about my mom passing away, but guess what? She got to talk about it, and I know she does. So I always tell her, Ma, you know, I don't want to hear this, and I start rolling my eyes and acting like a baby, acting like I don't talk about this all the time. She said, I know, girl, but you talk to everybody else about it, and I want you to know. So you talk to your people about it. If nothing else, everybody on this call, people say, I don't know how to start the conversation. You know how to start the conversation? I was on the call on Saturday morning. You know, the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated chapter, the Schaumburg-Hoffman Estates chapter, they had a presentation for financial literacy, and they had a financial planner lady on there, and she was very polished and professional and gave us so many good financial advice. And then they had this crazy attorney on there, and all she did was talk about soap operas and talk about how crazy life as an estate planning attorney is. But the one thing she impressed upon me and made me understand is that this is more serious than we think it is, and we need to get our affairs in order. Next thing that comes up, and I know that Jennifer is going to keep me honest with time because we are a little off on our schedule, and we started late. So you can give me a 5-minute sign or something and let me know so I can start winding down when I need to, and we'll take questions. But another big scenario that I see all the time is mom's new husband, new in quotes, because we never liked him anyway. So I get calls all the time. Yeah, well, my mama's new husband, or my father's new wife. And then I ask, well, how long they been married? 32 years. And then I make a joke and laugh, and I say, you know, they're not really that new, right? And the reason they call them new is code. Like we know that they use code of woke, DEI, all of that. All that means black. New means I don't like them, and they ain't my daddy or mama. That's what new means. That's estate planning code for new. And if you have a home, that is a good gift for family. I say the reason you do estate plan is because you love your people and you're looking out for them. Instead of buying them a new purse, buy them an estate plan. But anyway, the reason this becomes important, I have a lot of people who are remarrying. I have 2 clients just this week that are in their 70s who are getting married. One's getting married in June, one's getting married in September. So it's never too late for love. People have spouses that have passed away, people who have never been married, and now they got a house that they owned before they got married, or their spouse owned a home before they got married, and now they're going to choose to live in one of those homes. Well, now the kid's mad, right? Because that was going to be my house, or we were going to be able to sell that house. And now she got her new husband living in there. Or his new wife is living in there. You all are paying those bills together. Them kids are not paying not a single bill. And if you don't do estate planning, guess what might happen? Very soon, I had somebody trying to put their stepmother out before the service even happened. They came home supposedly for their dad's service, and they asked the stepmom, so when you moving out? I can't make this stuff up, y'all. She haven't even buried her husband yet. Her husband that she's been with for 20 something years, they bought that house together. That ain't just your daddy house. That's her house too. When are you moving out? Because we know my daddy's name is on this house. When you moving out? You don't want your spouse to be displaced a lot of times. And so I do something called a life estate that basically says my husband or my wife can live in this house for as long as they want to live in here, as long as they pay the bills. But when it's sold, then y'all can get y'all inheritance. I can give them some money if they want to leave. I can give y'all some money. But what you're not going to do is go put my boo thing out of their house that they help take care of. And you ain't came over here to shovel a flake of snow or cut a blade of grass. You're not going to be putting them out of the house because they had a house before they married me and they just moved in here because we like my house more or whatever the situation is. Here's the flip side. You're not going to keep the house that I lived in, that I owned, that I had before you came. And now you're going to keep the house and you think you're going to sell it, or you got kids and I put your name on the deed and I die first. So the house go to you and then it goes to your kids. We're not doing that either. My kids not putting you out, but you're not taking away their inheritance. So that's just a little note of blended families. Blended families are very important to do estate planning for. Every family needs estate planning, but there are particular touch points or particular hot button topics that need to be addressed about blended families. I do a lot of blended family estate plans. I have a lot of suggestions for people where they say, oh, I never knew you could do this, or I never thought about doing this. I was part of a blended family. My father died when I was 6. My mother remarried when I was 13. So I was part of a blended family. I'm part of a blended family now. I told you my husband is my daughter's stepfather. So I look out for blended families because it is important that we try to maintain family harmony. Also, thank you, Geraldine. Geraldine, are you looking at my notes? They on the table, so you couldn't see them. Your eyes not that good. Another thing that's important is mortgages. If you have a mortgage on your house, you need to do some estate planning. Lots of you have heard about transfer on death instruments. I use transfer on death instruments. That is putting a beneficiary on your house. I know the people at the recorder's office who helped develop this document. We had spirited debate about this document because it is better than nothing, but it has problems. When I am down at the recorder's office, I'm sure y'all know I'm not quiet, right? So everybody know when I come down there, I'm speaking to everybody. Hey girl, what's going on? Did you order up that snow? What's going on? How's your baby? They still at college? Everybody down there usually knows me on site. And if they see somebody there struggling with a transfer on death instrument, first of all, the people at the clerk's office are not attorneys that cannot practice law. You can give them whatever gobbledygook you want to give them that you put on a sheet of paper. And as long as it's got the notary they need and the legal description and it's on the right kind of paper and you give them the fee, they're going to record it. That does not mean that you have something that will help with some estate planning. And so if they see people, and most of them are people of color, they see me, they know I love talking and I love educating, and they will say, Attorney Julie, can you talk to Miss Conway for a minute? And then they'll tell me to pull them off to the side and I'll give them my card and I'll say, what you're doing is wrong. Just let me talk to you before you record this. If you have a mortgage on your house, you can't just give it to whoever you want to give it to. You can't give a mortgage away. Guess what? You didn't even give yourself a mortgage. Who gave you the mortgage? The mortgage company. Y'all could have put that in the chat. I didn't give you enough chance. So just like the mortgage company gave you the mortgage, they also have to give your son or daughter the mortgage. You can't just transfer a mortgage. I'm going to leave this house to my daughter. She got bad credit, so she can get the mortgage because I'm leaving her the house. So I'm putting her name on the deed. That's not how mortgages work. They still going to have to make sure she's credit worthy. And if you want to give her a mortgage, you can do that while she's still alive if you want to, but you have to work with the mortgage company. The same thing is true when you pass away. You better talk to Edna and get enough insurance to pay the mortgage off, because all mortgages cannot be transferred. Got it. All mortgages can't be transferred because 1 o'clock. So yeah, so just if you have a mortgage, if you have a blended family, you need to make sure that you do estate planning. Most of these things I talked about, if you have people still living in your house, last thing I'm going to say, I'm going real quickly with this. Don't put children's names on deeds. Don't put children's names as beneficiaries on the insurance policies. They can't sign anything. They don't have legal authority. They're minors. So you talk about how to do that through an estate plan. Last thing I will say before I go, catchphrases. People love that because it gets your attention, right? I want a Rockefeller trust. If one more person calls me about a Rockefeller trust or a dynasty trust, y'all know I'm crazy. So you know the first thing I say, do you have Rockefeller money? Do you have a dynasty money? I'm an attorney, not a magician. I can't turn your $10,000 policy into a Rockefeller trust. You need to talk to Edna, or you need to talk to your financial planner. Any trust can be a Rockefeller trust if you got Rockefeller money. Any trust can leave a dynasty if you got dynasty assets. That is why I say to all my clients, when you tell me what you want to do with your estate plan, I recommend that you see a financial professional like Edna, not me. I am not a financial professional. Guess what, y'all? I'm gonna lean in real close so everybody don't hear. I don't even take care of the finances at my house. That's what my husband do. I take care of the legal things. My husband is the legal professional. I mean, the financial professional in our house. It's fine. But I know one thing, I can't make your trust a dynasty trust. I cannot make your trust a Rockefeller trust. Who can make it that is Edna or a financial professional, because you have to have the resources to make your trust into that. It's not just the trust. There's nothing magical about it if it doesn't have money in it. So I'm sorry, that seemed a little rushed. It seemed a little scattered and all over the place, but I am ready to take questions now. I'm going to give you one thing. I'm going to do this a little bit out of order. If you want to contact my office, my scheduling clerk's name is Tanya. She is amazing. Everybody loves her. I say that's why half the people come see me is because of Tanya. You can call her. The number is 708 690 2971. And she is my scheduling clerk. She works part-time now because she's had some health challenges. So, but I still want her. I love her so much. I told her you'll never be fired. If you work 1 hour a week, you still gonna have a job with me. So she works typically, she works from noon to 5 on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Told y'all I love people, right? So my staff don't work on Fridays. My staff has paid Fridays off because I want them to be able to be off. So, and then also you can email me if you're a person who likes emailing to Julie A at julieajoneslaw.com. And then Tanya will get that. Where am I located? I'm in Oak Forest, 147th and Cicero. Very easy to get to. Some of my seniors take Cicero all the way from the west side to me, but I do still do home visits. I will tell you too, my first appointment is a conference call. It's about an hour and a half. It's not Zoom and Google and all that. It's just old school me pick up the phone and talk to you. And then your second appointment, if you decide to plan, is also a conference call. So the only time you would really need to come in the office would be your last appointment to actually sign your documents. But if that does not work for you, I still go to people who have health challenges, seniors, if they need me to go to them with documents to get them signed. I still put my show on the road and go to you.
Very good.
All right, so now we can start taking some questions if you have some.
Does anybody have questions for Attorney Julie?
And if you don't, do you have some? Because I have the ones you gave me, so I can start with those. While you
Okay,
look.
start with that.
So the first one, how do we transfer property to family members without them paying additional taxes? That is important. A living trust is typically how you do that. There's something called a step up in basis, and I'm gonna keep it really simple on this. Let's say you bought your house for $100,000 and you put your son's name on the deed, and now the house is worth $350,000. Or he goes to sell it. He is going to have to pay the taxes on the difference between when he got the property and when it's sold. If you just leave it in a trust, then they're going to treat it like when he inherits it. So if he inherits it at $350 and he sells it for $450, like Edna said, you can't avoid the tax man, but instead of paying the taxes all the way back to $100,000, he's just going to pay them on since he inherited the house. So the short answer to that is a living trust. Going to the second question I have, is a will enough, or do you also need a trust? A will requires your family to go to probate court. Most people do not know that. Probate court can be anywhere right now between $3,000 and $5,000 in the county I'm in Cook County, and it takes a minimum of 14 months. So you do not want, and it's public. So you do not want to go to probate court if you don't have to. And a will is a court document, and so it has to go to court. Last thing I will say about your will that you may not know, a will is public. Anybody can see your will. Your will is down at the county in which you reside. It is in the file room, and they just can walk up and say, I want to see the will for Sharon Cross. And they can tell them, I think, she passed away on February 5th, 2090, and they can get a copy of your will and look at it. So most of us do not want our estate planning business to be public. So a trust is private. I think we have a hand, so we have a Rosalind Conway.
Yeah, hi, Sora. Thank you so much. What a wonderful job, you and Edna, and we really appreciate your contribution as well. So my question is, if I live in Illinois, but all my family's in Michigan, is that going to be a problem with these documents?
Absolutely not. That's an excellent question, Sora. Lots of people have moved, their kids have left Chicago. Your estate planning is done by the state where you reside or the state where you own a piece of real estate. So I have people who have property also in Florida and Georgia and Alabama. As long as they own a home here or live here, I can do their estate planning. And they can pick someone whoever they want. One of my clients yesterday, her son lives in Portugal. So it doesn't matter where they live.
Wow. Okay, if you own property in another state, it's still
I can
within
take
your
care of it
purview.
in the trust.
Okay.
And here's another important thing about owning property in another state. If your family has to probate a will, they're going to have to probate it in both states. And most people don't know that. So if you own property in Illinois and you also own property in Georgia, they're going to have to open an estate in Georgia and I have one now that I still do real estate sales for some clients. We're waiting for the Georgia court to approve their sale of their home that's on 95th Street here, because they were in Georgia and they had Georgia property too.
Excellent. Thank you. Talk to you soon, hopefully.
Sure thing, Sora. I have lots of hands up. Am I doing the hands or are you doing the hands, Sora? It doesn't matter to me.
I see Edna
Okay.
has a question.
Hey, Edna.
I think Lynn was ahead of me. Lynn, is she ahead of me or no? Okay, all right, I had a question, mentioning property out of state. What about air property? A lot of people, especially people of color, have air property in other states.
That just made me sweat, that air
Yeah,
property.
that
Air property, if it's deeded, so air property, for those of you all who don't know, some air property is the one that makes me sweat, right? Great grandma and great grandpa are the only names that are on the deed, and they never went to probate, they never did anything, and one person dies and it goes to their heirs and their heirs, but nobody ever went to court to get the title cleared. That is disaster air property. A lot of times we can't do anything with that. There's 25 people on the property. We can't find some of them, all of that. Some air property is different because I have several acres, and Edna's acres have a deed, and Rosalind's acres have a deed, and Geraldine's acres have a deed. So that is something that I address. I am very well versed in that because, as you all know, most people in Chicago have Southern roots. And so I do address air property, and I just have to identify what kind of air property it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edna.
Lynn?
Thank you, Soror.
Hey,
I'm also,
Redbird.
hi, hey,
Redbird.
Redbird, how are you? Class of
Good.
98. Yeah, this was this was very informative. So my question is mostly about the cost for your services. Is it per visit, or how does that work? Is there a set
So
cost?
that is a great question. So if people left early, they may miss this, but you all can put this in the chat. So I charge a flat fee for an estate plan. So
Okay.
that's why I talk to people for 2 hours, hour and a half, whatever. It's a flat fee. Also, if you're in today's seminar, you are going to get a discount. You are going to get a $500 discount off of your estate plan. So when you call to make your appointment, please let my scheduling clerk know that you attended this seminar today so that you can get your $500 discount.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. I'll be calling this week.
Okay, and again, estate plans vary depending on if you're married or single, because if you're married, your spouse needs to do estate planning as well. It's not one person, you all both need to have estate plans. We'll talk about that because I do a combined estate plan for most things. Also, how many pieces of property you have. I will be transparent. My estate plan for a single person is $2,000. I think they don't let me make scheduling or do the billing, but I think it's $2,000. Plus you have to pay an additional fee for the real estate because it's other documents I need to do, the recording of it. And then for a married couple, it's $2,500. But you're going to get a $500 discount.
Okay, thank you so much, Sora.
You're welcome, Source. Good to see you, Redbird.
Good to see you, Redbird.
And estate plans can be up to $5,000. And just because mine is less expensive does not mean it's less extensive. I choose my price point. That's the benefit of having your own shingle and having your own firm. I worked for an attorney that charged $5,000 for estate plans that were not as good as mine. So I was determined when I started my own practice to make them more reasonably priced and to make them more thorough. And that attorney still practices with them $5,000 estate plans.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, this is Edna again. Hi, I wanted to see about LLCs. If you have real estate in an LLC, does that too need to be an estate plan, or does the LLC satisfy that?
Okay, so we talk about LLCs. That's why I do small business planning. So I started off just doing estate planning. It spun off into real estate because real estate is somebody's asset. It spun off into small businesses because small businesses are your asset as well. If you have an LLC, I still need to make sure that you have estate planning as well for your business, because an LLC never dies. And just because you have passed away, your LLC has not passed away. So we need to do estate planning for that as well. So we talk about that. So yes, if you have rental property, I recommend that you have it in an LLC, but I also recommend that we take care of estate planning for that LLC as well. Because the LLC in itself is not enough. One question that came up and somebody asked it earlier: who does free planning for seniors and or veterans? Unfortunately or fortunately, if you have assets, people expect that you are supposed to use your assets for planning, right? So most of the free planning is for seniors who are like in nursing homes or things like that, right? Because they don't have a lot of assets. So it's mostly disability planning. You are going to probably be hard pressed to find someone to do free planning for you if you work with somebody like Edna and you have financial documents, because number one, that's a more sophisticated level of planning. Or if you own real estate, you're probably not going to find anybody to plan for your real estate for free, because you have an asset. So that means you have some income. Lots of times those programs that do free legal things, they work under grants, right? And those grants are only for low income people. And low income typically means you don't own real estate or you don't have a financial planner. So, but you can, legal services can, that was my first legal job in law school, is doing powers of attorney and basic wills for seniors who didn't have very many assets. And veterans, I actually present to veterans. I present to veterans with PTSD. I have a relationship with a couple of Veterans Administration groups, and typically they do estate planning for you when you are still in the military, but I don't know anybody who does it for free for you if you're a veteran. So you might want to check with a VA office or something, but I do know if you're an active duty veteran, they have people who prepare estate plans for them. And sometimes I have to tighten those up when the people retire. But typically for a veteran, I don't know that they would do it for free unless they're low income as well and fall under one of those low income grants.
Okay, it's about 1:15. Anyone else? Any questions that we haven't satisfied?
Geraldine had her hand up, I think.
I just love, for us Delta Deers, I love your presentation. It is powerful.
Thank you so much, Soror.
Hey, I got a question. Do you provide notary services?
I do.
Okay.
Be a one-stop shop over here. I notarize everything. All of my assistants are notaries. We witness everything. We do it all.
Oh, okay. Very good. I may have some documents for you to have for me to have
Okay,
notarized.
that sounds good.
Good.
Well, thank you so much to everyone for still being here, hanging in here till after 1 o'clock. I appreciate your attention and your participation. I thank you for the Redbirds who are shouting me out in the chat. I always love to see my Redbird family as well as my Delta family. So, and thank you so much to my sorors from Schaumburg-Hoffman Estates for the invitation.
Thank you for being here. We are so appreciative of all the information. It's helping us. I'm in the 50 club, so I needed every bit of what you and Edna told us today to tighten up, get started where we are, no matter where we are in life. The younger the midlife, and the seasoned. So we appreciate that. We're going to drop a survey in the chat. We really appreciate it if you would follow through with the survey so that we can get better and provide our community with programming that's important. We also want to invite you all to a Delta Comedy Jam. Hopefully you saw that 2024 Delta Comedy Jam that's going to be brought by Shaq on May the 4th of 2024. So look for that. Follow us on social media. We do similar programs. We've had a mental health conference. So we love our community and want to make a difference. That concludes our time together.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. I
Thank
look
you.
forward to
too.
speaking to some of you all really soon.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
ladies. Thank you.
Thank
Talk
you.